Hey guys, welcome out to Pod of War, your PlayStation podcast from Nintendo. I'm of course your host, EOF Gizmo. I'm joined forever and always for the rest of my life with Master Dash Chris McGelly.
Hello everyone.
And making his Pod of War virginity debut, it's Peter James Morris.
Hi there guys.
Who is Scalebeck and Scalebeck 01 just to annoy me.
Oh yes.
So, guys, are we okay? Are we happy today? Are we having a good time?
Well, of course.
Oh, you were so shocked that I asked how you were. I was like, fuck, really? So, Pod of War. Pod of War has been mine and Chris's podcast for, I think, like 2 years now, which is actually really funny.
Yeah.
It's been incredibly inconsistent, because that's the kind of people me and Chris are. But it's been primarily PlayStation. So, we decided, me and Chris, over a long cup of tea, probably like a chat on the internet or something, that we are going to end Season 1 in August at some point, to end the PlayStation podcast, but make Pod of War a general podcast, because Chris is doing Guilty Sparked at the minute, which is doing really well, but doesn't make sense to do a Guilty Spark podcast as well as a Pod of War. And obviously we're doing the Gaming Monthly Book Club, which is going quite well, so we just kind of want to combine everything, so we can just chat about games, get a guest on, whatever, just have a good time and not have to be forced to talk about one thing, because realistically me and Chris change so frequently what we play that it makes sense. Isn't that right, Chris?
Yeah, sure it does.
So, to commemorate the end of Season 1 of Pod of War, we are doing a greatest of all time PlayStation podcast. So basically we're going to talk about our top 3 games from all the PlayStation platforms that came out in the West, before Chris says the fucking Pocket Station again. And we're just going to talk about our memories, our favourite games. This is by no means a definitive, the greatest games of all time. We've had a few rules, just simple ones, like not using the same game twice and trying to limit collections and stuff like that. So, without further ado, we are going to start the Pod of War PlayStation Special with the PlayStation Portable. Now, we'll start weirdly. We're going to start with Pete, because he's barely played it. So, Pete, what experience have you had over the years with PlayStation Portable?
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly short, because it's pretty much none. I was always a handheld fanatic of Nintendo, so I stuck religiously to the Game Boy, Game Boy Color, DS, 3DS, and all those basically in between. I never actually played the PlayStation Portable, and to save a bit of hassle, the PS Vita either, because I was that much of a zealot. So I know for these first two, it's going to be pretty much both of you kind of duking it out over what you deem to be the best PlayStation Portable games.
It's an absolute travesty as well. Like, I mean, I haven't played the PSP a lot. I actually had one at university, which is because that just to age how old me and Pete are.
Yes.
I had one at university, but they are such great machines. We're not going to review the machines, because otherwise this podcast would be 2 hours long. Because me and Chris could talk about the Vita till the end of time.
It's true.
PSP and the PSP are great consoles. But so for PSP, Chris, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Monster Hunter Freedom Unite.
So this is not a surprise to people, because I believe it's the best-selling game on the PSP.
Yeah, might be one
that
of the
or
GTAs or Gran Turismo or something like that.
I'm sure I checked earlier and it was a Monster Hunter, but I'm not sure which one it was.
Yeah, it makes sense, because obviously the PSP was huge in Japan, and obviously Monster Hunter is huge there as well, so I can see it being, at least in Japan, the best-selling game for the system.
So why was it your third favourite, Chris?
Really, I just needed a third game.
That's inspirational. Did you play it? Is there any story?
Yeah, I did play it.
Is this going to be a short podcast?
I have vivid memories of buying the Monster Hunter, like a special edition PSP, and it came with like
I'm shocked.
green like carrying
How many
case for
PSPs
it.
have you had, Chris, as well? I want to get this out of the way, because we're going to do this for every console. It's going to be my own little signature game.
I'm right. I knew I had a launch Giga Pack one, which I bought used, which had like a 1 gig memory card or something with it. I remember buying that used, and buying like coded arms or something on it. No.
Yes, I do remember Coded Arms. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, and a few of like World Tour Soccer or something.
But
like
how many machines, Chris? How many?
I bought the 5.
I want a number.
I have no idea, to be honest.
I reckon 5.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've owned at least I've owned 3 special editions. I've owned launch 1, and I own my current 3000, and I owned the E off you. So that's 6.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So Monster Hunter, I mean, it's a pretty legendary PSP game. Like you said, it was kind of the launch of that franchise, really. Like it was on.
Yeah,
PS2,
there was one on the
popular.
PS2, but then I think the Freedom Unite games and the normal Monster Hunter series was slightly different. I think one was more actiony and one was more RPG.
Yeah.
If I really remember.
You wanna listen to Monster Mash on Nintendo, and they'll tell you all about it. But
yeah, well, obviously we're talking I picked it because I can remember playing it quite a bit when I got that Monster Hunter Edition console. But a few of the other games and stuff, obviously I don't know what your list is, but I got like a 40-50 game collection on my PSP, and I really need to get around to playing some of these games.
You do.
And I know there are some actual classics on there that could have took the place of Monster Hunter.
And obviously we're not going to talk too much in detail about the PSP, but if you're into collecting right now, PSP is a great console.
I think it's personally
it is
the best console.
So cheap to buy games for the PSP right now. So Pete, if you don't get a Vita, get a PSP.
And if you get a 3000, you can plug it into your TV.
Yes,
so
exactly. And it's like that cable's really cheap. But so obviously Pete's number 3 is nothing, nada, nil point. My number 3 is really interesting, and I don't think that you guys would have guessed this of me at all. So I got a PSP. I've had 2 PSPs. The first PSP I got was in 2008. Was my first university student loan. So thanks for paying for that, guys.
Yep.
If I remember rightly, I think I broke up with my girlfriend of the time, Pete, and I'd sold my 360 to go to uni, and so I was like, you know what, I need a games machine. So I went out and bought a PSP, and the game that I played on that the most, but is number 3. It's not number 2 or 1, but even though I played it the most, was GTA Vice City Stories.
Yeah.
I believe you've actually bought this for me on PS2 as well a couple of Christmases ago, Pete.
I did, yeah.
I believe so. But yeah, Vice City Stories was great because it obviously wasn't Vice City, but it was a handheld Vice City, and this is what the PSP for me was very, very good at. It did do portable console gaming, and so it didn't have great draw distances, but it was a canonical story. It had all the characters, it had voice acting, had pretty much the same mission structure, and it was a really fun game. It didn't suffer from one stick, which a lot of the sort of like the Metal Gear Solids and that I think suffer because there's only one stick on the PSP. But GTA Vice City Stories was really fun. Like I said, now I'd play it on PS2 if you want to play it, but yeah, that my number 3, and this is going to be a much shorter thing than Chris's, because what can you say about GTA? You just like blowing shit up and killing hookers and stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, really, really great game. If you've got any interest in playing the GTA games, I think Vice City Stories you can get on Vita, right? There's a collection on Vita, and I think you can get it on PS2 as well.
Yeah,
so
they actually made 3 of them for the PSP. You got
there's Liberty City Stories and Chinatown Wars.
Yeah.
3 Chinatown Wars is very different, but it's a very good game, very polished. It's more of a top-down homage to the first 3. And Liberty City Stories was very close. I actually have both of them. That was probably like the 2 of the games I played the most at uni, other than FIFA like 05 or whatever. But yeah, both of those games are really good. So, Chris, your number 2.
My number 2 is Dissidia Final Fantasy.
So, for those people that are not nerds, what is Dissidia Final Fantasy?
Basically, it is, I want to say a Smash Bros clone, but it doesn't play in that angle. But just imagine taking a bunch of Final Fantasy heroes and villains and shoving them all into a fighting game with a weird, it's like a third-person fighting game.
It's like the Dragon Ball Z and
that was, I don't really know how
Naruto, Tenkaichi games. It's a open world fighting game, right? That's the best way. So it's like an arena. It's a big arena fighting game.
Yeah, basically, the PSP is really good for Final Fantasy games. Obviously, this is a decent spin-off of it. This is one that I had a special edition PSP for. I had the white one of this, and it has a story mode as well. So at the time, like fighting games having story modes weren't a big thing. But obviously, it did have one. Did get a sequel as well, which is Dissidia 012. Final Fantasy.
They just can't name a video, can they? Square Enix, they just fucking can't name video games.
I don't know if the sequel had Final Fantasy 13 characters or not. Or if
No,
it was 12.
I think they had 12 characters, didn't they? They had some characters
they definitely
from.
added new characters from.
Yeah. Because NT's big thing was that it had lightning in it, right?
Yeah, and obviously now they've added Noctis in.
And some characters from 14 and stuff.
Yeah, it's just a really good. It's basically a homage to Final Fantasy, so it's got plenty of like soundtracks and stuff. The closest on another system, like the 3DS, would be Theater Rhythm. That's obviously a rhythm title, but it's the same sort of premise.
Yeah, so it's the characters from all the
Final
previous
Fantasy.
games and.
Yeah.
In like one setting, and it was for a lot of the characters the first time they were in 3D, because I think it was before a lot of the DS makes, and like a couple of other games that got remade afterwards. Like I don't think they have done a remake of 5 yet, so I think you just like the first time you saw the 5 characters in 3D models and stuff, and updated models for Zidane from 9 and Squall from 8. I know some of them are in Kingdom Hearts or whatever, but yeah, I mean, Dissidia is a pretty cool game, and you're right, there was a lot of Final Fantasy games on the PSP. I actually don't have any on mine because I didn't play any on PSP, but there is an awful lot of Final Fantasy games on PSP.
Yeah.
So my number 2, again, Pete's number 2 is nothing, because he's a scumbag.
Why?
So I noticed a pattern on my list, and I've only just noticed it. So for the first time in this evening, my number 2 is Daxter.
Oh.
Nice.
Which was a spin-off game of Jak and Daxter. I know that can shock a lot of people. Daxter was a really weird game because it was kind of stealthy. It was a platformer and it had like voice acting, and much like GTA Vice City Stories, it is a console game on a handheld. I think they might have even ported that to PS2 as well.
They did, I believe.
They did. I think all 3 of the games I've got on mine are on PS2 as well. But yeah, Daxter was a great game. Obviously, Daxter wasn't as powerful as Jak, so he had to have like a bug spray, and he was like a exterminator. I think that was his job. It was like set between 1 and 2, so I think he was like, while he was trying to save Jak, he was like doing other things, and it was quite mission based and stuff. It was really fun. It looked really good. Again, because it was a platformer, one stick was fine. There was no issues. It had a lock on. There was no issues with like 2 cameras and all that kind of stuff. And it was just a fun game that worked really well on a handheld. And I remember at university, the very rare occasion we didn't go out and get drunk. As Pete knows, because we did it all the time. In first year, I used to just lie down.
Yep.
I remember sitting in the SU, watching the football with my friend Sean, and just playing Daxter and just really like enjoying the game. I played like 30 hours of that game. I must have replayed it on every setting. I think if it had been a Vita game, I would have the platinum. Like, I really did love that. It is only my number 2 game, which is madness because I think about how much I played it. But yeah, Daxter, fantastic.
Yeah, it is a really good title. Was that a Sony Bend game?
I think it was one of the Bend games, yeah. And Bend are a great studio who you will see throughout this, I imagine, because we both love Bend. I think they did Siphon Filter and then they did Daxter, but I think Neil Druckmann worked on Daxter. I think like he worked on it before he went into one of the main teams. Obviously, Jak and Daxter was a Naughty Dog franchise, so that's what me and Chris are getting inside baseball on this. So Chris, you're number 1. PlayStation
number 1,
Portable.
And I've mentioned the series already. It is the best Final Fantasy game, in my opinion, and that is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII.
Half of that statement I will debate with you, but go on, Chris. Why is Crisis Core your favourite game? Your PSP game, sorry.
It's just really good.
It's a crime that it's only on PSP.
Yeah, it is. That is like the biggest problem with that game is that, like, it's not ported on Vita to a digital download. You have to have a PSP to play it. It is set before Final Fantasy VII. You play as Zack. You obviously meet Cloud. You meet Aerith. It's got like this more real-time combat system. There's like cards and stuff in it. And again, that was another game I bought with special edition PSP.
Had a beautiful PSP console. I remember it white and like silver.
No, it was silver. It was silver.
Yeah. It was beautiful. I remember seeing that in Game Station in actually Newport. Actually, Pete.
Oh, really?
Console because it was quite a late PSP game, wasn't it? It was after. Wasn't it after Crisis Core?
Fun?
Was it after? Was it after Advent Children?
It was around the same time when they had that big push of Final Fantasy VII stuff, and it was one of the big PSP games, and like one of the big flagship titles of the system.
Oh, I have a weird memory that game came out. They did that special edition, and didn't they do a Darth Vader Battlefront special edition not long afterwards?
Yeah, they
around
did.
the same time.
There was tons of special edition.
I remember them
PSPs.
pushing like a couple of games that Christmas.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Crisis Core is a side game, really, right? So it's a side game of Final Fantasy VII. It's got a really weird name if you don't know what it is.
It's before Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, but the main story is discussed in Final Fantasy VII, right? We obviously don't want to go into two spoilers for a game that came out 20 years ago.
Timeline-wise, it goes Crisis Core 7,
Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus.
And
there's mobile games in between, but neither of us really played that.
Yeah, there's a few bits in
Before
between.
Crisis was before Crisis Core, ironically enough.
Yeah, sort of thing. It basically just play Crisis Core, play 7, and play the watch Advent Children, and you're decent. You're all good.
And I think this is the one Final Fantasy game that Pete would love as well.
Does sound pretty interesting.
It's really good. It's got a really interesting card system as well, for like power-ups, like a roulette system, right, Chris? Where like basically with roulette, different characters, and they'll give you different buffs.
Yeah, they have different
things. Cutscenes were amazing. I remember that from that game. The cutscenes were looked like Advent Children, and on the PSP and the PSP, it was like amazing. It was so good. It was one of the best looking games on the console. Yeah. I actually still think it looks good now. If it was on Vita, I still think it would be a really good looking game on the Vita.
It's just a shame because
there's a licensing problem, isn't there?
I don't know, but Square ported Type 0 from the PSP to PS4 and Xbox One, and so it's really annoying that they haven't done anything with Crisis Core.
I'd buy that game tonight if they were like, right, okay, we're porting it.
Here's the HD version
of
Crisis Core.
Right.
I just don't think enough people have played it, apart from the die-hard Final Fantasy.
Well,
fans.
I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and I honestly have not played it for more than an hour. I remember a friend at university having it. Do you remember Alid?
Yes, I do. Yeah, he knocked over my Xbox 360 and broke my guitar.
Oh, he did. Yeah, he broke Guitar Hero.
Yeah, he did.
And I might be wrong. I'm pretty sure it was him that I played with. It might actually be someone else. I remember it being first year, so that's the only person I could think of.
Yeah.
That was into games that I remember. So it was either him, maybe Luke, not Luke Matthews. There was another Luke, weird Luke.
Oh, weird. I don't know Weird Luke.
You'd know if you saw him because he was in your block. But anyway, this is 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
But I remember playing an hour with that and thinking, fuck, this game was sick. But I just didn't have the money to go out and buy it. I had my couple of games and that was it. But so that's Chris's number one, which is to be fair, Chris, your list so far is good. I was worried that there was going to be some trash in here, but Pete's list is looking great as well.
Oh, of course, mate.
Yeah.
Pete's still on 0. So Pete's number one is nothing.
Once again,
I'm going to make this joke for the next 6 entries. My number one, and again, get used to hearing this, is Ratchet & Clank Size Matters.
And a platformer, Dave, you?
So a platformer of a PS2 game that was also on the PS2, guys. Is that anyone sure? So again, for the 3rd game in a row, Ratchet & Clank Size Matters is literally a Ratchet & Clank game on the PlayStation Portable. It's everything. It has good platforming, good graphics, good shooting, good weapons, good story. It's a fun little game. It's a little bit more mission structured than the first 3 games, which were very linear sort of platformers. It's just everything that you want about Ratchet & Clank. I can't really even talk about it that much because it's just I like Ratchet & Clank. I played it a lot. Platform is good. It's really funny. Size Matters and Secret Agent Clank were both in contention for this number one spot because I like them both, but I only wanted to do one game per franchise.
Yeah.
They're really good. I mean, the PSP was. When we get to the Vita, this is going to be the main discussion, I think. But the PSP was fantastic for Sony supporting it, and there was a lot of games, a lot of first-party games. Games we even talked about Gran Turismo, which is one of the best-selling games on the console. Stuff like that. This Final Fantasy Tactics: War of the Lions, Final Fantasy 1, 2. All these other types of games like this that they ported to it flat out, and Burnout, and Kingdom Hearts: Birth by Sleep. There's so many games on the PSP. Killzone, is it Killzone Liberation? Yeah. There's a Resistance. Is there a Resistance game on there? There might not be.
Yeah, there is. There is. Is it Falling Sky or something like that?
Yeah, because Killzone Liberation was an XCOM strategy game. It was really cool. And SOCOM and stuff. Battlefront. But anyway, there's a lot of games like this that were on the PSP that sadly were not on the Vita. And like we said earlier, if you want to collect for PSP, now is the time because it is cheap.
Yeah.
Very cheap. So, now on to... do we want to do... So we're going to do PSVR next because... I think that's just to get out of the way.
Yeah.
So Pete hasn't. Have you even played a PSVR at all?
No, I've played quite a lot of VR titles, but not actually a PlayStation VR. No.
So it's another really wordy conversation for Pete. Pete's audio is going to be a nightmare for me to sync.
Oh yeah.
For this first 20 minutes because it's just not saying anything. Just keep breathing. We know you're
what can I say?
I know. Right. So we'll start with me because I haven't played much PSVR. So I've basically played 2 sessions of PSVR. I played a session with Chris, which we recorded. I believe is on your channel, right, Chris?
Yeah.
And I've played with another friend, which is good. And yeah, like I said, I've played for about 2 hours, maybe 3 if I include the stuff that me and Chris got footage for. A very interesting piece of kit. A piece of kit I would personally love to invest in, but I just can't afford it right now. And I'm kind of holding out for the PS5 because I like that the PSVR does have physical games, which I know for all of us is a big thing. And Sony is actually supporting the VR quite a lot, so credit to them. But without further ado, my number 3 PSVR game is Accounting VR Plus.
Oh,
which
yeah.
Is that from the Rick and Morty guy?
It is, yeah.
From Justin Roiland from his Squanch games.
You've got it, yep.
And it's not even really a game. It's just it's basically a point and click adventure, but it's just hilarious. It's such Rick and Morty humor, and I don't want to go into it because I don't want to spoil it, but it's like different stages of just funny. It's just a really funny game. It's got a kind of dark twist. There's quite a few dark twists in it. Again, if you've watched Rick and Morty, that's not a surprise, but it's just a really funny game. I played it for 20 minutes and I was like, this is really fun. It's not a very long game. I just really enjoyed it. It doesn't give you much motion sickness, which I think is my biggest problem with PSVR as a game I'll talk about later. Actually, both of the games I'll talk about later, actually. But yeah, Accounting VR Plus is great. Chris, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is actually not a game, but it is only on... I'm not sure if it's on...
This better not be YouPorn.
Fun?
This better not be YouPorn.
No, it's Illuminate.
Okay.
Yeah,
Pete's number 1 is YouPorn.
Oh, yeah. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on, Chris.
Basically, I don't know if I showed you. It's a 3D animation.
Yes, it's the story. It's like a boat.
Yeah, it's like a boat.
Yeah,
it's
it was really cool.
Sort of claymation, but you can look around what's going on and stuff. It just adds to it. There's a few other ones like that. It's like an alien invasion one. You can I can't remember where you're in a field or something. You can look all the way around. So they're more I don't know if they're tech demos, films, whatever.
From what I remember, because I believe I did play that one at yours. It's basically it's an animated film, but you are the camera.
Oh, that's cool.
So you move around the scene, and it was I will admit it was very. I remember saying to you, Chris, that I was like, if I could afford it, I would have bought a VR there and then because I was really impressed by the tech.
Yeah,
nice.
And for me, if I personally think that VR works better for non-interactive stuff. So I think it works better for movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I was like wow, if a really big studio like Aardman or something did a really good a pure animated film in VR, it would be so cool. I was really impressed by that tech. And I can see why you've put that at your number 3.
Cool.
Have you got anything else to add, Chris? That's
No.
I just completely
silence. Yes.
As I breath. We'll do Chris's number 2 now, just to shake it up. Chris, what's your number 2?
Super Hypercube.
Great name. Explain.
Basically, it is a block breaking game. So just adds the VR just adds a bit of depth to it, and you're just breaking blocks like you would on a breakout that. But you got rotate them and stuff to to hit the certain ones and stuff. Like you were saying with the depth things, I was seeing some trailers of Tetris Effect and stuff. Games that don't use the VR to immerse, but it just adds to the depth of the world, so sound and stuff. It's very much that sort of game.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, VR is kind of hard to talk about because they're very experience-based things, to be honest with you.
The best, from what I obviously I used to do the PlayStation VR and then looking at VR stuff now, the best stuff, like you say, is when your camera adds something is not really when you're playing. Moss is apparently really good in PSVR, where you're the camera and just controlling the 3D platformer off the mouse. That's
the game that I want to play. If I were to buy a VR tonight, that's kind of the one game I'd want to play.
And Tetris Effect,
and probably Resident, which I don't have on my list. I don't know if it's on yours, but So we'll try and get through the VRs because we can, just because there isn't a lot we can talk about. My number 2 was Drive Club VR. I like Drive Club anyway. I played this with the steering wheel. I didn't play it with the moving seat, which I think is the key, because it does give you some serious motion sickness. Because you're moving the head of a very fast moving vehicle.
Yeah.
So you're in the car, like you're in the cockpit. You're not, so you still got. It's very claustrophobic and stuff. And I really enjoyed it, but I think with force feedback and I think that would have been better. I think that would have stopped the motion sickness. Very just cool. Like I know Gran Turismo Sport does the same thing. It's just very cool to be inside a game world like that with like a fucking expensive car and having a steering wheel and stuff. Like I don't drive a car, so that's like as close as I'm ever going to come to being a race driver. You know what I mean? So I enjoyed it. It's what it is. I think Drive Club's a great game anyway. It has a lot of content, so to play it in VR was pretty cool. And it was a physical release, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah.
What is your number 1, Chris?
My number 1 is, even though I just said the best VR games seem to be the ones like Moss, where you actually see the character and all the camera and texture effect looks pretty good. This is the complete opposite, where you're actually controlling it. It's in first person. It's Resident Evil 7.
Resident Evil. Yeah, so it's the whole game, right?
Yeah, you can play the whole game in VR, and it is really good. I don't know how Capcom did it, because there's a few different ways. There's like settings you can do to change how it controls, but like I never had any motion sickness when playing it. Not really heard anyone really get it from it. I don't know, because if the game is slow, if you know what I mean. Like
it's also fucking terrifying. So I think if people were feeling ill, they're probably going, I'm just scared shitless, because I wouldn't want to play that in a controller with the lights on. So
it's a great game, Dave.
I'm a big girl, but and I think, to your point, Chris, I think the one thing that we were wrong about in the last thing is there's only one one genre I think really works in VR, and I think horror games is that genre. Horror games work really well in VR because you're fucking terrified. Like I don't know if you ever played many years ago. Pete, did you ever play Alien Isolation in the VR demos they did?
I never played I never played the VR side of it. I have played Alien Isolation, and that was really cool. Kind of very claustrophobic.
When they were showcasing that game, I remember Pete Harry's doing a lot of the stuff. Our friend Pete Harry, who works at Sumo now, so hi Pete. He was touring with Creative Assembly, and they did a VR booth for a lot of the big trade shows, and it was fucking terrifying. I can tell you right now how terrifying that game was. But I think that, as I said, Resident Evil is one of the only games that the full game is VR compatible. I think Gran Turismo Sport might be as well.
No, but, it's just a little.
Is it just something that's disappointing? But I'll be surprised if Resi 2 isn't. Maybe. I know it's a third-person game.
Yeah,
you never know.
It will be.
You never know. They might just do they could totally do a separate game, or Silent. Konami could do a Silent Hill or something.
When Capcom could track how people played it in VR, and the percentage was really high as people that bought Resident Evil 7 that actually played it in VR. Even though it's a multi-format game, it is the big sort of PlayStation VR game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think it'll be massively pushed to PS5. I think the extra power that PS5 will have, and they'll double down on the headset, and I think that the PSVR has still got another life to have yet, and I think games like that will really push the system. But enough of VR, because we need to get barreling through here to get Pete back in the conversation.
Well, yeah.
So, yet again, Pete has not played this. Now, I'm going to be controversial, and this is my favourite PlayStation console.
It is.
So
you do talk about it
very
regularly.
There's a lot of love here for me, and I know Chris is pretty high in your list too, baby doll. Oh yeah. So we're talking about the PlayStation Vita, the heavenly device that sadly Shuhei has not supported as much as he should have. So the Vita is obviously the follow-up to the PSP.
Yep.
Wonderful piece of kit, absolutely beautiful piece of kit. I love my Vita, I really do. And it has a lot of games, and this was actually kind of very hard for me, because whereas the PSP has a lot of first party, third party sort of decent AA, AAA releases, the Vita has a lot of indie games, a lot of really good indie games. So it's a very difficult platform to pick a top 3 of. But that being said, Chris, what's your third favourite Vita game?
My number 3 is Severed.
This is the first game that's going to be on both our lists. So,
yeah,
talk.
It's an interesting one. I've not finished the game. I'm currently stuck. I'm about 6 hours in. I thought it was because I wasn't quick enough, but you telling me it's all about technique.
It is a
how you
technique game. Yeah.
But really, why I put it in number 3 is I just got to really praise Drinkbox. Like, eventually they get ported to. Don't ever get ported to 3DS, but it did Wii U,
it's
mobile,
Wii U,
and
Switch, and mobiles. Yeah.
But it was like made for the Vita, and that's like at the time when it came out, like people didn't make games for the Vita. They made, there was games for the Vita. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
that was their main system. That was their goal in the minds, and obviously taking advantage of the touchscreen and what the Vita can do. Also looks really good, like the art style, and a dungeon crawler. That is a game it's a genre I would not play often, but it's like really like top notch. So yeah, it's just to praise Drinkbox really, and why I put 7 in at number 3.
Well, Severed's actually my number 2, but I'll just talk about it here. So I absolutely adore Severed. Now I have finished it. I have the platinum, which I don't have many platinums, but it's a game I went out of my way to get. It was one really hard fucking fight.
Yeah.
If you've got it, you know what it is. And it's like Chris is saying, it came out 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, right? This is what, again, for us as well, like me and Chris were really deep into the Vita and into Potable at that time. So we were really into the PlayStation community as well. Like we were watching a lot of Kind of Funny and PS I Love You and all that kind of stuff and beyond. And so we were like, really big into it. And Dreambox were like the shining lights of that. They obviously developed Mutant Blobs Attack and Guacamelee, both games that launched on the Vita first before they came to other platforms. Obviously, I know Pete's played Guacamelee.
Fucking love
Guacamelee.
Yes.
Guacamelee 2's out soon as well, and I can't wait. I'm so excited for Guacamelee 2.
It's out now, I think, actually, Dave.
It's out now.
I think it might have come out, yeah.
Because it's not on Vita.
It's
I haven't
out really. I think it might be the end of the month. It's like 29th, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's review codes and stuff about. But anyway, like Guacamelee 2, like that looks cool. But Severed is so interesting because not only is it a PS Vita exclusive in 2016, which is Suicide, it's also a first-person dungeon crawler, and it's touch controls. Like it's like they were like, what is really niche? You know what I mean? Like what could be the most niche game we could make? And they made it, and it is fantastic. The controls are perfect. Like I hate motion controls. Okay, me and Pete I've been making mobile games for 4 years, and I hate touch controls. This game handles so well. Every mechanic is perfect. The simple swipe, the charging of the blades, the timing, the powers, the skill trees, everything is so well done that it's easy to learn but hard to master. So Chris can finish the game if he wants without getting everything. It's fairly comfortable. Like there's a couple of bosses, like a couple of like things that once you figure out the mechanic, it's not too hard. But it really makes you want to go in 100%. Like I 100% did. I didn't just platinum it. Like I went to every single area 100%. I got every single item, every single power up, beat every single enemy in the game. You know what I mean? Like it took about 10 hours, I think. It was so good. And if anyone has a Switch or Wii U, doesn't have a Vita, I very much recommend Severed because it is very, very good. So yes, I like Severed. It's basically what I was trying to say there. So we'll do your number 2 right now, Chris, and then we'll go back to my number 3 afterwards.
Yeah, sure. My number 2 is Persona 4 Golden.
You are wrong. You're so wrong. I can't wait to hear what your number 1 is. So you talk about Persona, Chris. Go on. You bitch.
Again, I've not finished this. I'm about 35-40 hours into the game, so I've played a good chunk. And I even went and watched both animations, so the original Persona 4 animation and Golden animation, and I've bought the game on PS2. The game, like the style, the characters. I'm not a big JRPG fan. It doesn't feel like one, if that makes sense, due to how all the social interactions. It feels more like a visual novel, but in between what you're doing,
I'll debate that with you in a minute.
is obviously the combat in between the story, and like I said, the story is so good. Like I said, I got 30 hours in, got stuck. I was like, I want to continue this story. Went on Amazon, bought the Blu-ray box set, watched the animation because it's that good of the story.
So obviously, by my reaction, I've put Persona 4 Gold as my number 1 video game.
Yep.
Which comes as a shock to no one who's ever watched this show who has ever met me, because I really wax lyrical about Persona 4 Golden.
Just
and
a little
to Chris's point, it's a hybrid game, right? So it's a visual novel, like a high school visual novel, murder mystery, and it is a hardcore, old school JRPG. For me, it's the progression from Final Fantasy X. Like, so I love the turn-based Final Fantasy games, and I don't really like the non-turn-based ones. I don't really like 12. I don't really like 15. The MMOs I don't mind. I've played them a few times. So, but Persona 4 for me is the transition. So it's still turn-based. It's still, you still got fires good against ice and grass and whatever, like all those elements of the old Final Fantasy games. But having the Persona collecting system, which is like hardcore Pokemon, and there was ways to combine them to make stronger ones, and certain things that was better for someone else. And then you have the social aspects where everything you do in the social world impacts the dungeon world. So if you're more friendly with Yusuke will fight better with you. He'll give you buffs and all this kind of stuff, and his persona will level up and stuff. And I think the combination of that made for a fantastic game. Now, I finished the game. I actually did the bonus dungeon and one of the 2 hidden bosses. I really love the game. I will go back and platinum it before I die because it's just great. And I played 125, 130 hours probably.
That's damn impressive.
And it gets better as it goes. Like there's very few games. It actually starts quite slow, Persona 4, and then when you get to especially when you get to Maria's dungeon and the ski trip and stuff, like it just barrels on to the end, and it's fantastic, and I love it. I didn't want it to end, like to the point in which I actually went out. There's a sequel that is a dancing game. That was almost on my list. Yeah,
that almost made my list, but I thought I want to put 7 on this list. So.
Yeah, like, and to the point, like I went out and bought that game, and I have platinumed that dancing game. I have was it 45 hours, Chris, to platinum that game, 100%. Because it was Persona 4 and the music is that good. Like, again, I haven't even talked about how good the music is. The art style's fantastic. The cutscenes are this beautiful.
And like you were talking about the battle system, it's like the standard like fire's good against, but it doesn't feel like a.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, because it's so quick. And
yeah,
it doesn't feel like a turn-based.
And I don't know how you played it, because I played it because the default is that you actually only control your character, and the computer controls your teammates. So I changed it so that I control all of them.
Yeah, I did the same. That would make more sense.
I'm a Final Fantasy guy, so I like to have full control. But you can play it either way, and it's fine. The AI is really good, so that's not a problem. And like I said, the characters are so good. The story is so fucking good. And it's not a set story. It can change. You can make decisions. You can get stuff wrong and impact the ending and not find the murderer and stuff. And the actual twist of who the murderer is actually really good. If you don't know it's coming, you're like, oh shit, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very, very good. And that is why Persona 4 Golden is my number 1 video game. Why Chris is wrong.
And Yukio is best girl.
I went for Chie, my girl Chie, because I love me some tomboys. But so yeah, I mean, is your number 1 gonna be my number 3, Chris? Because at the minute we're 2 for 2.
Okay, what is your number 3?
So my number 3 is Killzone Mercenary.
No, that's not on my list.
Which is a fantastic game. It's arguably, I mean, I think Freedom Wars probably is, but it's probably the last great Sony AAA game, and it's the last great Western one. We'll agree on that. Killzone Mercenary is essentially a hardcore first-person shooter. It was built on the Killzone 3 engine, which is incredible. I'd say it's the best looking game on Vita in terms of pure like polygon count and stuff. It had a great mechanic of everything you did. There was like an overall mercenary system. Basically, you would get points and money for doing actions in single player and multiplayer, and you could replay the missions from a different perspective. You weren't set to a side. You were literally a mercenary. You were between the Helghast and the ISA, so you could play levels differently. You could play it stealth. You could play it all guns blazing, and it was really cool. There was a lot of cool collectibles. The multiplayer is still really good. Still gets a lot of players. Like, I play it quite regularly. I think I played it a couple weeks ago when I was with Pete.
Yeah.
It's just a fantastic game still. It's even better on PSTV because you need a controller, but it is comfortable, especially
being a great advantage for.
You're in such an advantage. Yeah, you can tell when you come up against a player using a controller and they just headshot you, like straight away, like fuck. But it's like after Call of Duty and Resistance were terrible, like Killzone was the shooter that the machine needed, and it justifies the second stick massively. And yeah, I think I love Killzone as a franchise. But if you're going to play a Killzone game, I think that or Shadowfall are the ones you want to play, to be honest with you. So if you have Vita, definitely pick up Killzone Mercenary. Just make sure you have a memory card because the patch is pretty big.
Okay.
So what's your number 1, Chris? Go on, let me down.
My number 1 is Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc.
Have you finished it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll allow it. So explain to, again, the non-weeaboos what Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc is.
It's basically a visual novel.
it's a visual novel puzzle murder mystery, right? I think that's the best way of
because you can walk around in the school to go to like a different room, but as soon as you go to another room, it turns back into a visual novel, and you do have like a mini game as well during it, which is an visual novel component. But basically, the premise is you're the best of something, so you're like the best singer from a school, the best footballer from a school, the most lucky student who you play as from a school, and you got like these 12 school children all going to this like special school, which is then controlled by a cuddly bear who wants to basically murder everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so like because it's actually they ported it to PS4, right? So basically, and it's actually a PSP game, right? In Japan.
Yeah, it was a PSP game in Japan. So, then it's got ported to Vita, and then we got it obviously in the West on Vita, and then obviously it came to PS4 eventually as well. It's a weird one because you were saying earlier about being deep into PlayStation with Sever. That is like one of the things beyond like obviously back in the day with Colin and Greg, they talked about like this game like for ages, and like no one, I don't think hardly anyone would have known what that game was, but they like made that game sort of pretty big in the West. They've done it like with Taco Master and stuff like that and a thing, but basically I was like, what's this game they're talking about? And I just picked up on my Vita, and it was like really good, and it works well as a handheld game, being a visual novel. I think that genre is like really good on the handheld system,
and they are very popular on the Vita. There's a lot of games. All 3 games actually came to the 4. The spin-off game also came to the Vita. Danganronpa is basically I think the plot is you have to kill someone to leave, right? School. Yeah,
basically
you have to kill someone to get away with it, right? Is that how it is?
Yeah, basically the bear is called Monokuma, and basically they'll let you leave the school if you kill one of your fellow students. Yet all the students don't want to kill one of each other yet, and then some getting killed off, and then you have like a trial, a bit like an Ace Attorney game where you got to find who did it, and if you found out who did it, they then get killed in like a weird, crazy way. But if they can get away with it, they leave the school and you all get killed and stuff.
It's pretty dark as well. It's pretty gory and stuff.
It's really dark and gory, and it has like a twist at the end and stuff. Obviously, there was like I said, there was definitely there was number 2, and then there's 2 versions of number 3. One's only on the anime, one's only the game. It kind of gets confusing there. I've not played any of the others, but number 1, you can just play that one really, and it is really, really, really good.
Nice.
So that covers our handheld VR section. So that Pete can come back from his sleep.
I was dozing a little bit there, just a little bit.
Well, so we're gonna jump into the main meat. So if you've come to this podcast, this is the point where I suspect you probably want to listen in. So, in descending order from the PS4. So we're going to start with Pete because he's been quiet. Pete, what's your 3rd favourite PlayStation 4 game?
Oh, okay, of course. I've played a lot of the PS4. I really, really like it. I think it's actually my favourite PlayStation Sony console that's ever come out. Personally, I love the pad, love the machine itself, and it's got just a great, great community. So my 3rd favourite one is one that I don't think either of you will probably agree on, which is Battleborn. Which
that's a weird choice.
I loved Battleborn. Like I had it on PlayStation. I didn't play anything else. As you may know, if you don't know Battleborn, it's a first-person MOBA. Look at MOBAs, look at first-person shooters. It's essentially the 2 smashed together. It's got some really great character designs. It's flawed. It's definitely flawed. It's got a bit of frame rate issues now and then, and I would say the polish is nowhere near up there with likes of say Overwatch. But there was something about it, like I'd never really played much MOBAs, it didn't really interest me, but Battleborn just does something that I really, really like, and the community that still play it quite religiously, even though it's incredibly small these days, that still play Battleborn online.
Nice, I mean it's a... I remember it getting absolutely trounced by Overwatch.
It's one that I've played.
People that have played it like it. I know you've talked to me about it before, Pete. I know Damon quite liked it as well, our friend. But it's one of those games where I think it just got killed by its timing. Like I know Overwatch just ate its lunch. And they're similar, but they're not that similar as games as well. But it's
quite different these days. I think people think they're the same breed, but they're so different. I mean, Paladins and Overwatch,
just look the same.
Yeah, they look similar.
I think they looked similar, but Yeah, but again, out there pick. Probably the most, I would say the most, PS1 would probably be Smackwood picks, right? Because everyone's got a weird PS1 game.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
So, okay, right, so we want to move this along a little bit. So, Chris, your number 3 PlayStation 4 video game.
My number 3 PS4 game is God of War.
Fair.
The new one.
Yeah, that is the new one from this year. I've put it in number 3 because it came out this year, so it's very fresh in my memory. At the moment, it would be my game of the year, easily. It is clearly the best thing out this year. They changed, obviously, a lot of what was God of War, because it used to be this like fast action-paced game with Kratos. Basically, it was just, I kill stuff, that's what I do. But obviously, this one in his son, it's much more slower.
Now he says boy every now and then, right? That's
boy, much more cinematic, but the story in it is so good. And like, it's also one of its issues, because I also remember someone, can't remember who it was talking about it. And
obviously, no spoilers for this game, Chris. Just
and they were like, I kind of liked it, but the story is like that good. I could just watch, like, it just felt like watching a Netflix like show, and that. It was like I could just watch it. Like, it felt more like a TV show, if that makes sense, than a game.
It's very much modern Sony, right? Like, so, like, one of the things I always lay at it whenever we have these conversations, that, and I do it kind of tongue in cheek. I'll admit, but Sony does a lot of these kind of like action movie games now, right? Third person action movie games, also big cutscenes, big set pieces, really cool, beautiful graphics.
It's got all that sort of thing, and like I can kind of see their point. Like, you know, I've obviously watched shows on Netflix, and you watch like a Marvel show on there, and like the quality of that, and you're like, yeah, I can see the story and that, and God of War is up there with things like that. And could you just be spending your time doing that instead of playing this game? Obviously, it does have a lot of gameplay compared to, let's say, a Metal Gear game, for instance, which obviously more
apart from fan but yeah, so that's a pretty solid pick, Chris. I mean, that's probably going to be the newest game on here, because I haven't played that, and Pete obviously hasn't. Obviously, we'll go into my number 3 PS4 game. I like the PS4 quite a lot. I like it a lot more than the PS2. Not quite as much as the PS3 at the moment. I think the PS4 will grow on me when the PS5 comes out in a weird way, because I'll be able to pick up a lot of the games I've missed, like God of War. I've only just started playing Horizon Zero Dawn. I haven't really played much of Persona 5, you know what I mean? So there's still a lot of PS4 to go. I've been mainly Xbox for the last couple of years, so it's always a bit of a... And the PS4 frustrates me in different ways. I don't like the battery life of the controller. That's my main issue. I have 2 controllers now, so I've solved that problem, but...
I just ordered one of the 500...
I looked. Amanda wanted me to buy it, but I didn't want to spend 65 quid on another controller.
It's quite
ridiculous, but... So to get into my number 3 game, and I quite like this developer, because I think I've already mentioned them, or I'm about to mention them again, is Infamous Second Son.
Good game.
Which is the first game I bought on my PS4 in 2015.
Yep.
I wasn't expecting to like it. I mean, I bought a bunch of games when I bought my PS3, if you guys remember. Obviously, I'd just come back from a holiday and I just decided to buy a PS3. I remember chatting to Chris about it for a while, and obviously Pete, I don't think Pete had one at that point, I'm not sure. I don't think so.
No, I didn't. I got my PS4 only about a year or so ago, about a year and a half.
Yeah, I remember you getting it like for Christmas or something, right? Something late, or birthday, something like that.
Birthday, yeah.
You got it. But yeah, Infamous Second Son is... Because I quite like Infamous and Infamous 2. But Infamous Second Son was just a good looking game. It's not particularly exciting, and this is such a weird thing to say. Like, it's not particularly special. Like, it's quite a simple open world. There's not really that much to do, but I think that's why I liked it. I found it very easy to complete. You know what I mean? It's very easy to go around and do all the little side quests and get all the collectibles. The story, for what it is well written, is really well acted by Troy Baker and the other actors as well. It looks great. I still think it looks great now, to be honest with you. The neon effect is fantastic. Obviously, Infamous First Light, which was the DLC slash...
I prefer First Light.
I think it's too short. That's my main issue with First Light. I agree, it's probably
like a standalone expansion thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
let it go.
I think had I bought that game physically, I may have put that on this, but I bought that game as a download for Second Son. So I still class that as DLC, but I can kind of get the point. But again, Second Son was great. It has a great third-person open world, a superhero game. It follows on from the other games, but only loosely. You don't really get too much story. Characters are really good. It's just fun. It's fun to traverse. Obviously, Sucker Punch are really good at that. They were really good at that with the Infamous games before. They were really good at it with the Sly Cooper series, and I'm sure Ghost of Tsushima will be absolutely incredible.
It does. Ghost of Tsushima does seem a drastic departure. I know Infamous was more realistic than Sly, but they were both sort of like fun.
I don't know. Have you played the later Sly games? Because there's a lot of stealth in that in that Tsushima trailer that reminds me of not Thieves in Time. Sorry, the third one. I can't remember what it's called, but there is the hint. To me, it looks like a Sucker Punch game. I know the traversal was a big thing, and I think when you start using the hooks and stuff, we're not here to talk about Ghost of Tsushima.
No, we'll get off topic there.
Yeah, it's already 50 minutes into this. So. Pete, your number 2 game.
Number 2. Okay, so this one is definitely just a PlayStation exclusive. It's Bloodborne. So
not surprised.
No, not at all. I probably have Dark Souls on here, but again, I didn't play Dark Souls on PlayStation. I played it on Xbox. But yeah, Bloodborne. I'm a huge Soulsborne fan. I love the setting of this game, though. The sort of Lovecraftian, Victorian art style. It's essentially a hardcore third person RPG. What can I say? It's just like a near masterpiece. Like, there's nothing wrong about this. If you like a really, really hard challenge that's set in a really interesting world with lots of player customization and a lot of replayability in the game as well, because unlike the Dark Souls games, it's just the main story, the main areas. You go back and play it on New Game Plus. This has an area that's semi. What's that word? What's that word, David? It's like kind of partly controlled by randomly. Random generation, basically. There's the Chalice Dungeon area. So part of it is put in place.
It's got some good DLC as well, right?
Yes.
The Old Hunters is pretty good.
Yeah, some of the hardest DLC you'll get for any kind of Souls-like game.
And for me, to jump in, I really like Bloodborne. Bloodborne is by far my favourite of those type of games. I find Dark Souls too slow.
Yes,
too plodding. It's too parry block, and I get that's what makes people enjoy, because it's the chess of it all, and I get that. I really do understand that. I get why people like it, but I like the aggressiveness of Bloodborne.
Yes,
and I think for a new player, it's a lot easier because you've got to be aggressive, because you can get that health back. Just a sliver, it's so useful. And to your point, some of the boss designs in that game are fantastic and really threatening and violent and dirty, and it's it's good.
And quick, and really quick, and they fit in nicely with the lore they're creating, though. You can get the lore through snippets of reading information, but also for Souls, they often don't give a great narrative. They don't show a lot of narrative through cutscenes. This is the most they've ever done. I'd say even so more than Dark Souls 3, which came out later. I totally agree with you. Dark Souls is more of a parry block, slower paced game. This, due to its mechanics, it encourages you to be aggressive. Totally.
Yeah. And I like Yharnam as a place. It's great. It reminds me of a modern day Metroid as well, the way you would open up shortcuts and there would be specific items that were better, that helped you in specific situations. Obviously, don't want to go into any spoilers for Bloodborne.
Yeah,
it's a very cheap game now as well. If you haven't played Bloodborne and you own a PS4, you can get it for £5.
Yeah,
it's worth picking up completely. I do completely agree with you. And it's still a good looking game. It still plays fine.
Oh yeah, and like in all Souls things, they always have a catchphrase. So of course in Dark Souls it was praise the sun, and this one's fear the old blood. I love how they kind of get these little snippets in that just kind of stay with you.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll see Bloodborne too soon.
I want it so bad. I want it.
But
that's been teased quite a few times. But they
did Sekiro instead, didn't they? That's what
we know the 3 games that From Software are working on. So
Armored Core, guys.
It's the first one they announced of the 3, yet we still haven't seen a single thing of.
It's coming. Everyone's waiting. I just want a Togi 3, but anyway. Chris, number 2.
My number 2, and you actually did mention it, Dave, is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Ooh.
It's a game I'm playing right now and I really like. But Chris, you've finished the main game, yeah?
Yeah, I finished the story.
Yeah.
I picked up Frozen Wilds and I've not played it yet. It's another, like you said, action game from. This one is much less cinematic than God of War, and less mature, I suppose is the word I suppose use.
It's less violent, right?
Less violent. It's much more colourful stuff. Ashley Birch is fantastic. It's Aloy. It's just really good third person action adventure game. Decent story, some really good combat, taking down the robots and stuff. It's really good. I don't want to talk much more about it due to like spoilers of the thing, but I can definitely see this. It's sold ridiculously well.
It's still on sale for another till the 22nd of this month. So if you haven't picked it up, like you can get the complete edition for about 20 quid, and that's
a bargain. Really.
And you can get the main game for 12, I think. So it's good. Like I said, I think I've played about 6 hours so far, and you're right. And again, the story's got such interesting twists already that I don't want to talk about it too much, because the setting is for me is the best thing. Like finding out what's happened to the world to get it to where it is very interesting. Beautiful game, runs perfectly. The monster hunter elements for the dinosaurs are really cool. They have like specific weak points, and you can like the weapons. You can like tie stuff to the ground, and it's really cool. It's a really cool game.
You telling me about looks? This was the game that actually convinced me to get a PlayStation 4 Pro, because I saw it at EGX. They had a big 4K Sony TV running showing this game off, and it was like, that is gorgeous. I still maintain, people say there's better looking games on PC or whatever. It's the best looking game I've played. Now that might be because I've played PlayStation 4 Pro since like then. So like God of War,
like the impact.
Assassin's,
like the
impact of God of War,
one,
Assassin's Creed Origins hasn't got there, but I still maintain it's the best looking game. It's just really good, and I wouldn't also be surprised going with like the PS5, Sony like Horizon Zero Dawn 2 or whatever they call it.
They've doubled the amount of people working at their studio, so that's
it will be like the new like Uncharted 4 is like the big one where we got to talk about this to get people excited about PS4. I can very much see it being the case now with Horizon. Like, well, we've got to announce Horizon when we announce the PS5 to get people talking about. I think it's going to be big.
Yeah. So yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn. Play it. It's good. My number 2 is somewhat controversial, because I think it might be. It could be your number 1, Chris, but I'm not sure. It might be on your list as well, Pete, but I'm not sure. So my number 2 is Uncharted 4.
Ooh, good game.
It is a good game.
It's a good game.
But
there's a but.
But it's very much a one-note game. So I know. Okay, this is going to sound bad, like as a start to me saying it's really good. It is a good game. It's beautiful. It ends Nate's story very well. I don't want to go into too many spoilers still. There's a lot of different variety in the types of types of missions and the types of settings. It just kind of feels like Uncharted 3, and that's kind of my own. That's why it's not number 1. I love it. I love the PlayStation homage that's a little bit into the game, Chris. And Pete both played it. It's really cool. And hints to what came afterwards as well. But and the multiplayer's really fun. I mean, me and Pete fucked around the other day actually.
We did.
Survival DLC. It's really good.
We got our ass handed to us.
We did get our ass handed to us. But yeah, I mean, Uncharted, what can you say? Like, Nathan Drake's a great character. His supporting cast is great. The gunplay's really fun. It's very simple, but it's fun. You know what I mean? The platforming is fun, but it's simple, but it's fun. The settings are great. There's some great settings in the game. Again, I don't want to talk about it because of spoilers, but there are some really good set pieces and stuff throughout the game. And it's, like Chris said, it's the game we all wanted, right? When the PS4 was announced, it was the game we were like, oh, that's why I'm buying a PS4. For me, I actually bought PS4 after reading an article in PlayStation Magazine about Horizon Zero Dawn, because at the time I was applying to work at PlayStation Magazine, so I bought PlayStation Magazine to read it while I was on holiday. And so I was reading about Horizon Zero Dawn. That's why I bought PS4. But Uncharted is sort of the first big game. You know, first go right. This is the game to play on the PS4. I think everyone played it when it came out. And as much as God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn have both been great games since, I don't think it had quite the universal everyone's playing it impact, because there's just so many more games around now. But yeah, Uncharted 4 is great, but it's not quite my number 1.
And even the follow-up spin-off, a bit like First Light, Lost Legacy is pretty good as well.
Yeah, I found it okay. I think it should have just stayed DLC, but hey, you can get it real cheap, and it comes with a multiplayer for 4. So
yeah.
So we're gonna go. Who should we go for? Let's go for Chris. Chris, your number 1 PlayStation 4 game.
My number 1 PS4 game, and there shouldn't be any shock when we were talking about the PlayStation Vita. Is Persona 5.
Fair.
A good game, from what I've played of it so far.
I've yet to play it. I need to. It's heavily on my list.
It's in my top 25 games of all time. It's just, it basically takes what Persona 4 had, you can argue the characters aren't as good, but obviously the dungeons are all properly hand designed this time. It's absolutely gorgeous. The soundtrack, obviously, like even simple things like the pause menu.
Yeah, it has the best menu in video games. The best
style.
menu is ridiculous. The menu is like unreal.
Yeah,
like, it's unreal.
It's just like how it all works, and like there's added things. But again, it's one you don't really want to talk about with like spoilers. Obviously, the story.
Oh, we literally can't talk about it because otherwise Atlas will come for us, Chris. Do you not remember?
Because you're not allowed.
You're literally not allowed to talk beyond a certain point. So there's a certain point. But to Chris's point, it's Persona 4 on crack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love Persona 4, so I didn't quite connect with Persona 5. I haven't played it enough to really put a thing, but I cannot argue with Persona 5 as your favourite PlayStation 4 game first.
Makoto, best character.
Well, I have no idea who you're on about because I've only seen Anne. So, Pete.
Yep. So, if you know me, this won't come to a surprise at all. It is Nier Automata. So, came out last year. I think it was on PlayStation 4, and was my game of the year last year. Fucking amazing. Like, I had no real expectations of what it was going to be like. I'd read, or rather listened to, a YouTuber called Mr. Klemps on his breakdown of Drakengard and the Nier series in the past, and that kind of got me hyped for this game. I started playing it, and I thought, well, I'm a big fan of Platinum games, and the concept sounds really interesting. Started playing it and was just blown away from start to finish. It tackles really dark and in-depth sort of things like genocide, what is actually love, what it is to be human, just to name a few of these sort of concepts they kind of play around with. And they do it in such a graphic manner because this doesn't spoil too much. It's literally androids versus robots, and because of that they can get away with a hell of a lot that they could not do in another kind of game. The character design's perfect, the sound design's perfect. Yeah, if you haven't played Nier Automata, play it. It's just unbelievable. I fell in love with the characters, especially like 2B and A2. Yeah, just something else.
I'm embarrassed to say that I bought that game on launch and yet still not played it.
What? Oh man, that game literally changed my life. That's one of the few. It's like a life-defining game. There's a few of them you'll play throughout your life, and you're like, that has physically changed me as a human being.
And your Persona 4. That's what it is.
Have you finished it all? Like, is it 6 times?
There's 26 endings.
Yeah, but
you'll never
like
do it, Chris. Don't
aren't
you
like the first? Isn't
the
first, like the first six or something? Like
first
the canon ones?
4 are the main ones. Yes, I've done all of that. I literally replayed it again and then again and again. Each time the game changes and the perspective changes.
I remember listening. I think it was an IGN Xbox podcast because it's now put into Xbox. It's like,
yes.
The playthrough gets shorter as well because I remember them saying like. The 6th playthrough is only like an hour long because like how you've done stuff. So it sounds really daunting. Like, oh, you got to play this game 6 times to get the true ending. Yeah, it's not quite you 6 lots of 15 hours or whatever.
No, exactly. And as you get better, of course, your character progression stays the same. So you'll still be the same level, like like whatever it was going to be, and the weapons carry across. So you won't actually be at like level 1 each time you restart the game. I mean, there was moments legitimately I was actually in tears. I was like, holy shit, this game is just affecting me in ways that I don't often get. You know?
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel really bad about what my number 1 is now. After you both talking about these like beautiful spiritual games and all that stuff. Yeah. So my number 1 PS4 game.
Yep.
Is a shock to no one. It is Ratchet and Clank.
I could have guessed that actually. I should have just said.
I was thinking, why is it? But then it was like, yeah, that's pretty obvious.
So I like platformers, guys. In case you haven't.
Hadn't guessed, Dave. No, never.
And to what Chris was saying about Horizon here, Ratchet and Clank is the best looking game I've ever played. Right?
Yeah.
I can actually see that.
It looks like an animated movie.
A very good looking game.
And so just to blow everyone's mind, so Ratchet and Clank on the PS4 is a sort of remake movie tie-in game, right? So the expectations, I think it was budget release as well, right? 30 quid. I had no expectation for Ratchet and Clank, right? I love the original games, which I'll probably talk about later. But love them. Obviously, love the PSP one as we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But it's just the polish. You know, Insomniac came back to the franchise and retold the first game, but did it differently. Obviously, it's beautiful. The characters are really funny. The platform is fantastic. The weapons are so good. There's a weapon that turns people into pixels. There's a weapon that makes them dance to death. You can even use on the bosses, you know.
Dance to death, nice.
There's a lot of collectibles. There's a really good challenge mode, and again, it's not as grandiose as Uncharted or Nier Automata or Persona.
Yeah.
But it's just pure fun. It's just a fun game. It works really well. It looks great. I smiled the whole time I was playing it. Like, I will probably play it again at some point to get the hard mode run through and try and get the platinum. And it's just good. It's just a game that you can get very cheap. It was even a PlayStation Plus game not that long ago as well. That's just fun. It's just, games for me have always been fun. First and foremost, games are fun. So I like so many platformers. You know what I mean? They're just colourful, fun games. And
yeah,
sometimes in the world we live in, you know, you don't want like a dark story about murder and sex, and you just want to play a fun game where you turn dudes into sheep, you know. So Ratchet and Clank on the PS4 is my favourite PlayStation 4 game.
Ooh,
I know,
nice.
and it's one that I knew none of you were going to have. So now we're on to kind of
really, again, that's two games I really should play, Ratchet and Nier.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want to get Nier because it looks like a game, like it's a platinum game as well. It looks like a game that would be up my street, but
it's
time
perfectly
is
done.
The essence. So PS3, and I think is this our favourite home console, guys, PlayStation wise?
I actually prefer PS4 because
you just said you prefer PS4. I'm tired, but for me, it definitely PS3. I think Chris, you kind of like the PS3, right? That's kind of
it is. It's definitely grew on me over the years, and looking back, I would most probably say it's a hard one between the PS1 and the PS3 because obviously the PS1's got nostalgia, and there's a lot of where series I love started. Well, I say started is where I first played them,
which
so
we will get to when we get to the PS1.
it is a difficult one, but it's definitely in my top 10 like systems. The PS3.
So the PS3 is obviously last gen. It's the first HD, full HD. I mean, PS2 could do it, but it didn't do it very well. PlayStation thing. So a lot of games changed. Obviously online, although PS3 online wasn't that great. So, without further ado, I'll start with mine for a change.
Yeah, do it.
So, my number 3 is going to be weird if you haven't played these games, because Chris just said God of War on the PS4. But my favourite is God of War 3 on the PS3, which is not a sequel to God of War, just to confuse us. It's God of War 5. But God of War 3 is the combat.
It's number 4.
There was
5.
There was Ascension, so
yeah, but Ascension's set between 2 and 3, isn't it?
Well, it's still the 4th game, Chris. So it's actually it's the 7th game. If we're going to get into semantics.
Because you've got Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta.
You're such a bitch, Chris. I just want to let you know that. But so God of War 3 is the end of the mainline trilogy of God of War games. God of War 1 and 2 were late PS2 games. Just brutal hack and slash games. Very different to God of War on PS4. God of War 3 is just a brutal hack and slash game, and I mean like the first 20 minutes you like gouge a guy's eyes out, you know what I mean, and rip dudes' heads off, and like literally end the world because you want to kill everything because you're Kratos and you're angry.
Yeah,
and it's wicked, and it's
very cathartic.
It's very cathartic. It's the first game I played on my PS3 when I bought PS3. I bought PS3 a couple of years after the fact, and I really enjoyed it. You know, I played it from pillar to post in about 3 days at university in our second year, actually, Pete, just to make sure old again.
Yeah.
And I just really liked it. I just liked the violence. Kratos as a character I enjoyed. I know he's a better character now, but I enjoyed his mad Titan violent thing, and it was cool. It was just a cool game, and that's really for me where God of War ended, because all the previous games are like this, and obviously the new game is like Horizon and Uncharted or whatever. So, but God of War 3 violence. So, while I get a drink, Pete, what is your number 3 PS3 game?
So my number 3 one is Heavy Rain. Mainly because I love story-based stuff. I love narrative, and it just kind of captured me. David Cage, isn't the guy behind it all, who did Fahrenheit as well?
Director.
Yeah, so like for me, especially at that point in time, it had some of the best graphics I'd ever seen on a console. It had a really unique, interesting story, which follows multiple characters. You basically try and figure out who is the origami killer and who is taking your son. I won't say any more in case you ever are interested in playing it, because it's also out on PS4. But it's one of the few games that I play that allow for multiple different endings that really affects it. So if I played it and I got, the good ending and I saved everyone and my girlfriend played it, and she wasn't as good at QuickTime events, because that's one of the key things. There's a lot of QuickTime events, which I didn't mind, especially because it kind of works in with a narrative. But she managed to somehow kill everyone, and the murderer got away, and that was the end of the game. In fact, Dave watched her play part of it, I believe he was so frustrated you kind of had to play it yourself, didn't you, or wanted to very much so.
Yeah, it was weird because for like a couple of days, I think you were working or you were away or something.
Yeah.
And obviously we lived, for people that don't know me, I mean, I lived with Pete and his partner and a couple of friends for a year after university, and we had a great time. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But Pete was at work or away or something, and me and Nuala were just in the living room, and she was playing through Heavy Rain, and it was only ever me watching.
Yep.
And it was just car crash, and I loved it. It was so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I made her watch me play it afterwards, and like, right, this is how you do QuickTime events, Nuala. But it was just so funny because it was like, for someone like Nuala, who was not necessarily a gamer at that point, like I think she became more of a gamer for playing that game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, I know you
it's
guys
one of her
play games
favourites
together now, and I know she talks about how much she loves that game in particular, and other similar games.
Yes, very much so.
Like,
In fact,
Alien Noir and stuff like that. But yeah, it was just it's a fun game. I think anyone can play, and it has got some problems, like moving with the R2 control button is kind of fucking stupid.
Bit strange, yeah. And they are at moments where it's a bit slow.
They improved the controls on PS4.
PS4 has slight improvement, and the Move controller actually makes it way better. And they did a Move edition after the fact on PS3, and I believe the PS4 version uses it somehow. I'm not sure. But yeah, Heavy Rain's a great game. It's weird because it's like I would never put that in my top 3 games, but I know you didn't play a massive amount of PS3.
I see. For me, my PS3 sort of collection, I liked more unique experiences, and at the time that was something I hadn't really experienced. You know, without spoiling anything on the plot, there's a bit where you have to kind of potentially get rid of your finger, and you have to choose if you do it and how you do it. And I thought that was a great decision.
Like some of those scenes, like, and the twist of who the killer is actually really good as well.
Yeah, it's well written. It's legitimately a well written bit of a game, you know.
It's just a shame that the next game they did wasn't. But.
Beyond Two Souls is not great.
I didn't mind.
It's okay.
It was definitely the worst game from David Cage.
Oh, Fahrenheit's pretty bad as well. But
no, I don't mind Fahrenheit.
So, Chris, number 3 game?
My number 3
Confused?
is Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots.
I've just bought this game, so I'm actually interested to hear what you have to say. No spoilers, obviously, Chris, for this 30-hour movie you're going to talk about now.
It is pretty much a 30-hour movie. It is one of the few games that sort of convinced me to buy a PS3, because obviously the infamous first PS3 E3 conference was Ridge Racer and
giant enemy crabs.
Yeah, it was like, this is really, and then obviously the price of it's $599 US, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Then I think it was the E3 the year after, Square Enix showed like Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy 13 versus 13. So Square sold me on the PS4. In 2007. But then Konami, I don't know if they had a press conference or something, they showed Metal Gear Solid 4, and then it was like this. Plus, I remember I don't think we had the PS3 yet in the UK. And it was like, okay, I want that game because obviously I'm a big Metal Gear fan. So that's what sold me and made me buy a PS3 at launch, like a crazy person. But then I think it was 2008 we got, because it's 10th anniversary this year of MGS4. Annoyingly, it hasn't been ported to anything else. Like, where's the HD remaster on PS4?
Yeah.
Guys?
I don't think that's going to happen.
Nope.
No. But yeah, it's really good. It basically ends Snake's Tale. So even though there's the MGS5, MGS4 is the last one in timeline order.
Yeah.
It does play like a Metal Gear game. It does have stealth elements and have chapters separated, but it is more cinematic than any of the others. Like, it has like a 90-minute end cutscene, which made me late for work at the time, because I was like, I'm at the end of this game, and it's like, this is an hour and a half long, and you couldn't pause it or something like that. It was like ridiculous. I think, but it's like, it's a hard one. like you obviously now playing it, Dave, I don't know have the same impact of, let's say, me playing it due to playing all the other Metal Gear games. So like the ending of the game has a huge impact based on playing the other games in the series.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a game for fans. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
it's weird because we've talked about it
and
before.
the callbacks to like Meryl and Johnny and stuff like that.
We've talked about it before. Like Metal Gear's weird because I actually like Metal Gear from a story. I've watched the story cutscenes and movies like quite a lot, but I haven't played many of the games. So like I think if you've done that, I think MGS4 is, you're right, like a fantastic. And I actually think from a story perspective, it's a lot better than the Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
And again, I have watched a full Let's Play of MGS4, but I am really looking forward to playing it myself because I know it's different when you play a game. You can buy that game for £1.50 right now, guys.
Yeah.
Damn.
And the most interesting thing I think, me and you have talked about this at length, Chris. The most interesting thing I think about MGS4 is that it got a trophy patch 4 years after it came out. Like that's how much people are dedicated to that game. That they knew that people would want to get a platinum for MGS4. So that as of 2012, it got a platinum. A game came out in June 2014. Chris, you are right. 2008. God, it's set in 2014. That's why it confused me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've really called. I like to wind you up, Chris. I know that's a shock to everyone, but MGS4 being like a movie, but. You're right.
It is close to a movie. You can get away. I think it's the only Metal Gear game you can 100% get away with not playing and just watch it.
Yeah.
Because obviously
it's much less stealthy
Control
as well.
goes to the cutscene. Control goes to the cutscene and stuff like that. And like even the loading screens, because it was weird. Because obviously later on games installed to like the hard drive, and you only need to it installed during the cutscenes and in the chapters and that. It's like I don't know really. Because it's an early game, I think there's like some weird things, but even like the menus and that are really cool, and it's got like these weird like adverts and stuff in between. So yeah, but basically nano machines.
Yeah. But it's one of those. It's a good end to 20 years worth of story. Like it's one of those, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to playing it. I've been playing. As a little tease for our segment that we're going to talk about next episode, Metal Gear is heavily involved in that segment.
Ooh.
So expect to see more MGS4 talk on Pod of War as we go. So, what are we up to? Are we up to my number 2?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
I went for a drink, so I'm paying massive attention. So my number 2, I think, is going to be on your guys' list. So if it is, we'll talk about it all together. But my number 2 is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
Nice. The best Uncharted game, in my opinion.
It is on my list as my number 2.
Oh, what about you, Pete?
It's not on mine, actually.
You dirty bitch.
It was close. It was very close to being on my list, and I would totally agree it's a fantastic game, and I think the best Uncharted game, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I haven't played 3, so I can't talk. I thought I had played 3, but I haven't. So I think I played the beta to 3, Pete, before I sold my PS3.
I see. Yeah.
Because I was that poor.
Paid them bills.
But Uncharted 2. So Uncharted 1 was like a weird sleeper hit. Like, if you had a PlayStation 3, I think you knew about Uncharted 1. Yeah. So, ironically,
it was like one of the first big games when it came out to obviously buying a PS3 at launch. There was like nothing for ages, and it was like, this weird exclusive game from Naughty Dog. Oh, they made the Jack and Daxter Crash Bandicoot. Let's pick it up because there's like nothing else to play, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's 2007 it came out, and like we were saying, like weirdly, like our friend Damon introduced me to Uncharted because he had played Drake's Fortune on his PS3.
Yeah,
and like, which is weird if you know, like, Damon. That's a weird thing. Like him recommending a game that's actually good,
and a single player
but
one.
It's
that.
like, yeah, and Drake's Fortune was an interesting game, but it wasn't that special. Like it was in one setting, and it was kind of cool and Indiana Jonesy, but it was very much a Tomb Raider ripoff. In like setting and like at the time anyway, but 2 just took it to a level that 2 introduced what I like to call the Uncharted set piece, which is what the games are known for now. And they have these big set pieces. You have the train level, and you have the opening of Uncharted 2. For fuck's sake, is such a set piece when you're dangling. And this is not a spoiler because it's literally the intro where you're dangling from the train.
Oh yeah, and
you've got to climb back up as it breaks and stuff. And it's just, and even now, like I've played the remaster version on PS4. And it looks great still, so has a good story compared to the first one. The first one had a villain problem. The second one doesn't have a villain problem. There's a convincing villain throughout. It introduces Chloe, more sort of dynamics between Nate and Elena, and it's just really cool. Again, because we've already talked about Uncharted 4, they're very similar games, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but everything is improved in Uncharted 2. I would very much recommend picking up the Uncharted collection on PS4, because it's very cheap for all 3 games, and Drake's Fortune's vastly improved. So
yeah, because you haven't got the stupid 6-axis control.
Yeah, you haven't got to worry about all the fuckery that the PlayStation 3 had, but on the PlayStation 3 I think Uncharted is great. It had really good multiplayer as well, and overall I think it's arguably the second best game on PS3. So Pete, you're number 2.
You mean number 1 now, I believe?
I mean number 1, yeah.
So mine is actually Mafia 2. A game that I absolutely love, because I'm a big fan of like the GTA sort of style games, but like I felt Mafia do story better than GTA in my opinion, especially more of a mature story. And Mafia 2 is the best one out of all 3, in my opinion, that they've actually released. I still love the opening for that game. It's one of my favourite openings to any video game, kind of set at Christmas time. I'm a massive Christmas fan. If like a White Christmas comes on, you're walking back from the war to your house, and it just kind of sets the scene basically for what the game's going to be like and the city that you're going to be surrounding yourself in. Of course, it's set like way back when. It's got like a really cool kind of it's a soundtrack that kind of fits with the time period, and all the vehicles are like kind of semi-historically accurate. There's a lot of customization you can do, and even though it's quite a linear experience, a bit more like unlike I guess GTA games, especially the newer ones. It's just the way the characters are developed. It's really interesting. If you like GTA, but feel it's a bit too too large or a bit too much, or what the hell do I do? You should check out the Mafia games, especially Mafia 2. For just a really concise, thought out story about the Mafia, and as one guy goes from being a nobody to being a somebody.
Yeah, you've talked to me personally about Mafia 2 many times, and actually I'm planning on to playing Mafia 3 very soon, because I actually have that game through PlayStation Plus, so
yeah,
I'm looking forward to playing that at some point. But yeah, it's one of those games that I do believe when it came out it did struggle a little bit sales wise, because I think it must have come up very close to GTA 4.
Yes, it was, and of course,
right? And GTA 4, people forget now GTA 4 because GTA 5 is so big, but GTA 4 was massive when it came out, and it ate up Saints Row. That had to completely change what type of game it was to get noticed again.
Yeah.
And the Mafia 2 did struggle, and I know Mafia 1 was a fun game as well on PS2, right? I believe.
Yeah, PS2.
It was nowhere near as polished,
PC.
but it was fun. It was a good proof of concept for a game. Very similar to a game I'm going to talk about when we get to PS2, actually. But yeah, the Mafia series seems really interesting. So personally, I really do want to play Mafia 3. I know it has some characters from Mafia 2, right? So
the main character is
watching.
Yeah, without spoiling too much, the main character from Mafia 2 is based on one of the guys who interact in Mafia 3. I will say, I feel Mafia 2's combat is not as good as Mafia 3, but the overall story I think was better. Definitely better in Mafia 2.
I think I might watch like a movie thing on YouTube, maybe see how it is.
Yeah.
Or like I said, I have a PS3 now, so I could probably buy it for like £1 or something.
Oh yeah, it's dirt cheap. Takes about like 16 hours to get through, I think it is.
Oh no, so that's a good length for me. I can cope with that.
Yeah.
So, I guess Chris's number 1 is.
Yeah. Was your number 2 Uncharted as well, Pete? Then.
No, that was Dave's one. Dave was Uncharted. Mine was oh god. Second one. Oh, lol, I'll do it, yeah, so I've got to say it. LA Noire.
So what you're saying is, Pete, I was right.
You're right. I just went somewhere else.
Fuck's sake.
Well, we'll do a rant, doesn't really matter.
Pete, what's your number 2, Pete? Because we've just got number 1s left now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave.
You were silent for like 30 minutes and you still got that wrong.
I was distracted. So LA Noire, basically. So, yeah, again, another, like, kind of heavy story-based
all
game.
your 3 games are very similar, Pete.
Yeah.
You could tell that I might like sort of heavy story-based, potentially gangster-related.
I'll buy you a trilby for your birthday.
I was going for a phase there, point in time, and I just really liked those style of games.
Dave Hall, wasn't it? You were inspired by Dave Hall.
Exactly. But also these were games that Nuala actually quite liked to watch, so we played LA Noire together after playing Heavy Rain. And yeah, it was just LA Noire, of course, if you don't know, is a third-person adventure game, I'd say, more than anything else. That has elements.
It's people always level it being like the 1960s GTA. It's not very
It's not.
similar to GTA.
It's not at all.
other
It's
than
done by
the fact you drive
Rockstar.
around.
Yeah, it's got driving
Yeah.
mechanics like that, but even they're a bit different, and it's made by Rockstar. That essentially is the comparison. It's very different apart from that. It's a linear story where you play as, I think it's Cole, I believe his name is. Come on.
Yeah. I think that's cool.
But yeah, you play basically as him, and it's his story as he becomes from a beat cop all the way through, I guess, being a detective, as he goes through like Vice and two of the other basically kind of police sections. So it's following a series of different murders that essentially occurred throughout, like kind of reference to history. I think a few of them actually are kind of semi-historically accurate, and you're trying to solve them. And it's
A lot of the DLC ones are.
yeah. And there's some really good bits basically where once you've caught your perp or believe you've caught your perp, you take him in for interrogation, and this is where the game really sets itself apart to I think pretty much any other game on PlayStation 3. Like graphically, I think it is the best looking game on PS3, and the facial animations, because the game's all about telling if someone's lying, telling the truth, are they hiding something. And they pull it off so well that it's not as good as like looking at someone in real life and looking at that, but you can tell just from their facial expression they're telling a lie, no, they're telling the truth, no, this guy knows a bit more, and you can sort of push them through different actions basically. And if you catch the right guy, you get like a rating. So you can complete a mission and get like a C rating, I think it's the lowest. Like you might not have caught the right guy, but you did at least some good police legwork, or you could get like I think it's an S ranking or a high A ranking, and you've basically done it all. You found all the clues, you've pushed the right buttons, and you've nailed the perp who actually did the crime.
Yeah.
And it's got actually quite a sad story actually as you go through it. I won't spoil it any more than that, but like it's worth playing again if you like a really good linear narrative experience with some really interesting mechanics that I don't think are actually done in any other game since.
Yeah, and obviously it's been re-released.
It has been released. Yeah, so there's no better reason.
Switch
yeah.
And the PS3 version again is about £1.
Yeah, it's a quid. Yeah.
If you want to play on PS3.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alien was very interesting because, like I say, it was the facial recognition was really what it's known for. I found it a very interesting game. I actually, Amanda really wants to play it, my partner. So
we should play it together.
I will buy again. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. She doesn't like backseat gaming at all, so she's better than me at games anyway. So
no, that's true, Dave. Yeah, the Super Smash Bros. Tournaments.
True. Yeah, it is true. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really interesting game, and at the time it was really cool. It was after GTA 4, right? But before GTA 5.
That's correct.
Before Red Dead as well.
No, it was after Red Dead.
It was after Red Dead. Okay. But like Rockstar was really in a big hit of strength at this point, and I really hope there is a sequel to Alien Noir personally, because I think it would be really interesting.
It's not going to happen though.
Choice for your number 2.
Yeah.
For your number 2, Pino, number 1.
I've said all mine there. Yes, I'm on number 2. Yeah.
So, Chris, let's get some order back.
What's order?
What's your number? Well, it's certainly not a game on any of these lists, but it's your number 1 PlayStation triple game.
My number 1 PS3 game is Journey.
Oh, fair.
I still haven't played that.
How have you not played
I have it on
Journey?
I have it on PS3/PS4. I still haven't played it. It's 2 hours long as well.
It's 90 minutes long actually.
Nice.
How 90 minutes? Is that it?
Yeah, it's the first Chris game on all these lists, because these are the type of games he plays now as an old man. So what is Journey, Chris?
It is I say indie game, but obviously Sony did publish it. It's from that game company.
Yep.
It's a hard one to explain because it has no dialogue or anything like that, and it's pretty much you control your character, which is sort of like a wanderer type deal, who you have to basically journey to the top of the mountain and back down again. But it's just there is a story there, and it's how it's told through the interactions of the world, how the map, how the world changes around you, how you use sounds, because you can press, I believe it's X for Might Will Never, and like you do like song notes and that, and you can also play it multiplayer, but you don't know who you're playing with. So I can't play with you, for instance, Dave or P. You just play with a random stranger.
Yeah.
You don't know who that is until the end of the game when the credits roll. And then it says you played with so and so and how you interact with this character. If there's ever an argument if games are art, this is like, I think the pinnacle of that sort of like argument is like, yes, this is Journey. Games are art. Look at this. Look how great it is. And it's the first sort of like indie that I played as well. Things obviously only 360 and only PS3 games. You did have downloadable games, but it's more like Geometry Wars and stuff like that. And then obviously this comes out of like nowhere, and it's like getting 9s and 10s and getting the year awards and stuff all over the place. And it's like, yeah, you can have a great experience and have more than the shooting things or whatever. You can have a decent story and emotion, and the game doesn't have to be 10 hours long or 15 or 50 or 60. A story can be told in an hour or 2 hours, and you can have a quality experience.
Yeah,
I think it's just so good.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. It's obviously very different to anything else we've talked about so far.
No.
But again, it was one of the first games like that as well. That was very much, that we've got games like Inside and
Limbo.
They did the one underwater. Limbo.
Oh,
they did
Absu
and Flower and Flow and stuff like that. That were very, very artistic, like very film housey. Like film houses were like you'd expect in like an art gallery and stuff. And it's cool. It's a really interesting game. It's a game I'd want to play. Everyone I know that's played the game tells me it's great. So, and it's 90 minutes long apparently. So maybe I'll do it later.
Roughly, yeah. It's on PS4 and it's a cross-buy title.
It is, yeah.
And I think the trophy list might be separate, so you can play it on.
It is, but it's no platinum. So what's the point? What's the point? So in a completely different direction, my number one is as close to a cheat as I can do.
Oh, okay.
But I have played this game on both of the consoles at the time, and I have 81% of the trophies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go for it.
So that's fair. My number one PlayStation 3 game is Mass Effect 2.
Oh, yeah, surprise, yeah. Took this long for a Mass Effect game, Dave? Or I guess it's,
I primarily played them on Wii U, Pete, as you know.
Oh, it's true, yeah.
Mass Effect 2. So I like I said, I did actually play Mass Effect 2 on the 360 first, but I didn't actually finish it. I borrowed it. So if you remember when you borrowed Mass Effect 2 and 3, it was during the era of the one-use code.
Yes.
Do you remember the one-use code, boys and girls? Fucking worst thing to happen to. Basically killed GameStation. Really, realistically. Lowered the price enough for a game to buy them, but that's a story for another day. So I didn't play all the way through Mass Effect 2 on the 360 until much later. So when they announced Mass Effect 2 for PS3, it had been an Xbox exclusive up to this point as well. They announced they were basically remaking the game with the Mass Effect 3 engine, and I was very excited for Mass Effect 3. And it had it was basically the Game of the Year edition of Mass Effect 2. I think there was one piece of DLC afterwards. I believe it was the Arrival DLC, which I bought for PS3 and finished on PS3. So I pre-ordered the game. It was one of the only games I pre-ordered during university. I think it's 2010, 2011, probably 2011, I think. And I played the fuck out of it, boys and girls. Just again, because Mass Effect is one of those games you need to play. The story is the biggest thing, so you need to play it to get that story. But it really added everything that I loved about the first game. It improved upon. The story was better. The gameplay was better. The characters were better. The suicide mission was fantastic. Getting to know your characters was fantastic. The DLC was fantastic. Like Lair of the Shadow Broker and stuff was so good. And Mass Effect 2, for me, is still the best Mass Effect game. I don't think it'll ever be that good, sadly, again. But yeah, great game. Great single-player experience from BioWare. Set in space, you had create a character, had one of the best openings to a game, much like Uncharted 2 for me. Really good opening, where you essentially die and they rebuild you, a la the Bionic Man, the $1 million man. And it was great. Really good game, Chris. So I know you both. Oh, actually, no, I know Pete sucks, so he hasn't played it.
I've owned it for years and years.
You owned. Do you still own Mass Effect 2 for PS3?
Yeah, of course I do. Don't get rid of it.
You need to fucking seriously, you need to play it.
Yeah,
I'll play BioShock if you play Mass Effect 2.
Okay, yeah, I'd be on for that. But isn't Mass Effect like a 40-hour game?
Oh, you can beat it in like 20.
So yeah.
To be honest with you, Pete, I'm confident enough that you'll enjoy it enough that you won't notice that time.
That's fair. Yeah, and okay, I'll take you on that offer, Dave. Yeah,
I'll play BioShock. That'll be our deal. I will complete BioShock if you complete Mass Effect.
Yep, I'll be fine with that.
That's the deal. That's the deal. But I know Chris has played it and loves it. So
yeah,
Chris.
it's fun. See, I always feel we've had this argument about collections as it is one trilogy, and I played it all on Xbox 360. Hence why it's not on my PS3 list, and I really wanted to keep it to exclusives. I would do the same if we were doing a 360 list. I would mainly do exclusives on that as well. I just feel that's a great game of that era. But like you said, it won't be really top. I think BioWare has completely lost their way under EA.
Well, I've got no loyalty because I played Mass Effect 1 on 360 because it was an exclusive. I played Mass Effect 2 on PS3 and I played Mass Effect 3 on Wii U. So, what do I know, guys? And the main feature in the game was you could travel your fucking save through it as well. And I'm like, nah, I don't give a fuck about that. On the Wii U.
Yep.
So that was the PS3. Great console. I still have one. Pete still has one. I still play mine quite a lot. Like now that I bought another one recently, and I'm really enjoying it because it's really not very different to the PS4. Like they've really made it very similar now. So I'm like pretty happy. The controller sucks though.
It's the worst controller of any PlayStations.
But on to the most controversial console I think on our list, because the PlayStation 2 guys sold 155 million units. Is one of the best-selling games consoles of all time.
Well, it is the best-selling console.
No, it isn't.
It is, I guess. See,
are you sure?
It's nice.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to outside of the Wii is what I'm thinking.
The Wii's only like 120 million.
It is the best-selling. You're absolutely right, Chris. See, Chris knows his knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually zero. It's like a million more than DS. That's it. So, but anyway, it's the best-selling console of all time, and we all grew up around the time of the 6th gen. 6th gen is probably my favourite generation, Chris's favourite generation, and it's probably your second favourite.
Yeah, my second.
I know you love the 360 and PS3 era and the Wii, because I know you love the Wii.
Oh, fuck the Wii. God, I hate the Wii.
So, we should all like it, right? It had almost 4,000 games.
Doesn't mean they're all good, though,
Some
Dave,
of the best-selling games of all time. But none of us really that keen.
No. From that generation, I actually preferred Xbox over PlayStation.
It's my fourth favourite of that generation.
It's my fourth favourite as well.
Which we've talked about. If we haven't talked about on our, because we're doing a retrocast about the 6th gen soon, so maybe we may get Pete on for that as well. Who knows? But yes, we'll go into more detail about the PS2. But the PS2 was a follow-up to the PS1, which is a shock.
Yep.
I know, because of the name. And it had a lot of games, and it was a great DVD player.
Yes.
So, first console with DVD gameplay, so it's really cool. So, Chris, what is your number 3 PS2 game?
My number 3 PS2 game is Silent Hill 2.
Fair.
Oh, good game.
Very good game.
Yes. Yep. It was quite an early PS2 game. I remember at the time it was exclusive. It eventually got ported to the OG Xbox,
and it was a lot better on Xbox.
But it was just, when I think back of the PS2, like we've just talked about, I wasn't keen on the PS2. I didn't play that many games on it. So trying to think back of what I did play and what I enjoyed, Silent Hill 2 was one of them. I'm really big into the survival horror genre of like that sort of time, and it's really good one of them. The story is like pretty great, and obviously it's got a load of endings. Obviously it's got the stupid dog ending as well. So yeah, it's just
a great ending to a game.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I'm not doing it justice, but it's great.
Yeah.
It's iconic. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
So Silent Hill 2 is arguably the best Silent Hill game. Again, I'm
it is the best
not a purveyor of the horror games, which is a shock. Again, there's a lot of shocks in this episode, but I know that's the biggest shock, that I don't like horror games.
Primarily zombie horror games, isn't it, Dave? That's your big thing.
Primarily zombie. Silent 2 just fucks with you though. But I mean, at the time it was very big, and it was kind of at the point as well when Resident Evil was kind of starting to lose its way a little bit, like it was getting kind of stale and tanky, and Silent Hill 2 and 3, and to a much lesser extent 4, were very well respected at that time. So I can understand that, Chris, as your number 3. But to move it along, because we are already at an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh, jeez. Well.
Pete, your number 3.
Cool. So my number 3 is Guitar Hero 2. So, as you know, the boom of Guitar Hero came out around the PlayStation 2.
I didn't even know it came out on PS2 because I had it on 360.
Oh yeah, man, it was PS2. It was all about the PS2. So when Guitar Hero came out originally, I was like, "What is this? This is awesome." You know, I'd never experienced the idea of like, I can't play musical instruments. I have no musical talent whatsoever. But it gave the illusion that you were kind of had some level of talent. And of course, you kind of jam along to your favourite tunes. And the Guitar Hero 2 was my favourite one of all of them, basically, and also the one that I played the most of. You know, on my little old 8-inch TV in my bedroom till the early hours of the morning, jamming away. It's like the Beast and the Harlot. Yeah, like of course that was the boom. I mean, it got larger and larger and larger and larger, and of course these days it's sort of faded away again. With it occasionally pops up, doesn't it, with like Rocksmith or a new rock band. But yeah, Guitar Hero 2 I thought was the pinnacle of great musical-based video games.
I think 3 is better, but I can respect 2.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I played about 6 of those games on 360 before Activision did what Activision does, and it kills it dead.
Oh yeah,
like it did Tony Hawk, and like it will do.
We're not talking about Tony Hawk. Can't talk about Tony Hawk.
No, we're not. When we do the GameCube one, we'll talk about Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Guitar Hero is a good choice. It's a good choice. My third one's weird because it would actually be Ratchet and Clank, but I can't do it again. So
yeah,
I've gone for this is a weird one because I don't think you're going to be like Dave, really. The Getaway Black Monday.
Wow, yeah, that's actually something I wouldn't expect from you, Dave. Definitely.
It's a fine ass game. So I'm well known for being a bit of a puss, right? And I've always been a bit of a puss. I don't like buying graphic games. I never have.
Yeah.
Okay. I've always been the platform guy.
Yeah.
I've told my Billy Hatcher story many times.
Oh yes.
But I liked the first one a lot, and it was because it was GTA in London, but like we'd already had GTA in London, but it was like just gritty. It was like a Guy Ritchie film. Like Lock, Stock and like Snatch, and it was really cool. And Black Monday just improves upon it. The game ran better, looked better, the mission structure was a bit easier, you know. And it sucks to me that we never got the Getaway 3. I know there was a tech demo on the PS3 era, and I know the studio now are making a VR game. That's Blood and Truth, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very unique game, and I would love them to bring it back. But yeah, if you have a PS2, I think. And you want to kind of get that old GTA feeling, but with a little bit more control. I had a better lock-on system for shooting and stuff, and lots of voxel vetras, which is what we need, guys. The Getaway Black Monday was great.
Yeah.
All about those voxels. So, Chris, your number 2, PS2.
My number 2 on PS2 is, I said earlier, God of War might be the best game of the year.
Yeah.
On PS4 in general of this year. Well, actually it isn't. But the actual best game of the year is a remake of this, and that's Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, yep. See, that's on my list as well, Chris.
Am I the only one that like understands how video game works? You know, how like good design and stuff.
Hey man, like you say this, it's done in such a way that it's like it's design that works in its context. Yeah.
Is the PS2 version like actually? Because that's one of my contrasts. Because I know the PS2 version ran like dick. Like really did run like that because it was like way too beautiful for the PS2.
Oh yeah,
yeah, it was really late. Like the 360 was like this like late 2006, if I remember correctly. PS2.
I think you're right. Yeah,
pushing the hardware, but it's just it was absolutely. I was saying about Journey, like this. What I was saying about that can apply to this. It's absolutely just beautiful, and the story that you take away from Wanderer's experience. It's actually like. On paper, it's a simple game. It's just a boss rush game. You go fight a Colossus, you kill it, that's it. But how the story is told and the ending of it, it's just beautiful. And then I played it obviously when it came out, and I never played the PS3 version. Then I played it again this year on PS4, and I was thinking, will this hold up? Blah blah blah. And Blue Point did a fantastic job with that port, and it's still absolutely fantastic. When I was saying about like Persona 5 being in my top 25 games all time, Shadow of the Colossus like in my top 10 is just absolutely brilliant. So I say I don't like the PS2, but it has one of the best games ever made, in my opinion, on it. In Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Ico was really good as well at the time, but I haven't gone back and played it since. If I was to pick up a PS3 again, and I've been looking at it, I would mostly pick up that HD collection and play Ico on that. But do really want Blue Point to do a remake of Ico. They really need to do that.
Yeah, I mean, like,
was it your number 2 as well, Pete?
It was actually my number 1. I fucking loved Shadow of the Colossus.
I'm so disappointed.
Yeah.
I didn't know you played that on PS2. I thought you only had it on PS3.
No, I played it on PS2. I still have it in very good nick on the cardboard sleeve and all the like little postcards.
It's a nice addition.
It's a nice addition.
The PS2 is one of those consoles I actually want to collect again for at some point in the next year or so because while they're cheap.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. Is the best way of putting Shadow of the Colossus. Yeah. You know, like it pushed the graphics to the max. It just felt, clunky at times, but it sort of worked with the dynamics of what the game was. You know what I mean? Like, he's not naturally a guy who's going to be climbing and killing monsters, so it feels that he's, a bit janky and not, like, really fluid. And
the game's also really sad.
Oh, super sad.
Yeah.
Super sad.
Oh yeah.
But
the ending.
We're not going to talk spoilers. That game came out last year, technically, so we're not.
We're not going to spoil it for people that actually want to still play the.
So now that Pete's done his number 1,
again,
we'll do my number 2. This is going to be surprising.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you guys feel about it, but it's Jak and Daxter. So I really like colourful platformers. It feels like I've said this in the last hour and a half.
About 5 times.
But I really like colourful platformers. Specifically Jak and Daxter and the Precursor Legacy, because that's the most platform of all the platformers.
Yeah.
I liked Crash Bandicoot by Naughty Dog on the PS1, and they did a game on PS2 that was a cool, cutesy platformer with a good story, really bright colours, really interesting levels, and I just really enjoyed it. I like it. It's a little bit more open world than the Crash Bandicoot games, which I kind of liked. Graphically, still holds up now. You can buy the PS2 version on PS4. It still looks pretty good. Obviously, the PS3 remasters are much better. Awful on Vita. Don't buy it on Vita because it runs like ass. But yeah, Jak and Daxter is just great. I mean, I've talked about Ratchet and Clank so much that I kind of can barely think of anything unique to say about Jak and Daxter and the Precursor Legacy.
Yeah.
I know. I don't think Pete would have played it much, but I know Chris would have played it.
I haven't.
And I know our friend Luke loved it. We played it again recently. Like when we say recently when we lived together, we played it. But yeah, it's just a good platformer by the kings of platformers at that time, and it was one of the games when I got a PS2, it was one of the first games I wanted, and I bought it. I believe I bought it for £10 from GameStation because it didn't have a manual, which is hilarious because no one has manuals anymore.
No.
But yeah, Chris, your number 2 game.
No, I don't mind number 2. My number 2 is Shadow of the Colossus.
Okay then. Your number 1 game.
What about Pete? Must be missing one.
No, Pete's missing his number 2, but I'm making him wait because
Okay.
I'm horrible like that.
Okay, so you want my number 1? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Right, it is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Snake Eater.
Is it Snake Eater or Snake Eater Substance?
No, Subsistence is the better version.
Because of that camera, am I right?
Yeah, they fixed the camera and stuff, but obviously, I'd just say Snake Eater. It's just easier to do that. This is arguably the best Metal Gear Solid game. It's the easiest one to play as a standalone game, even though it's number 3. It's the first in the timeline, so it's the easiest one to play. I would say it's the one with the most, apart from 5, the most actual gameplay of a Metal Gear game as well, and it has some fantastic boss fights like the end, and how things can alter in that game. Like if you don't play the game for a week and you come back and dies from old age and stuff, and it has possibly the best end boss fight in the whole of video games as well.
Obviously, no spoilers for a game that came out 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 3 is I actually really like Metal Gear Solid 3. My first true exposure to the franchise was Metal Gear Solid 3. My best friend at the time was a massive Metal Gear fan, and I remember him buying that game, and I stayed with him for a couple of nights, and we played that pretty much all the way through. It's not a perfect game. I mean, the camera of the initial release was really bad, and I kind of don't like. There's a lot of healing mechanics, and you kind of have. There's a lot of macro management of Snake. You have to do. You have to really look after his wounds and stuff. But it's interesting. I like the setting a lot. I like the James Bond homages at the beginning and throughout the game.
Yeah, and obviously the theme tune of Snake Eater is
Snake Eater is a great song.
Very James Bond.
Theme I may play it as the intro to this podcast because I'm gonna edit this one, so it might be a little while. But yeah, Snake Eater is great story. Worth playing now, I'd say so. You can play it on pretty much every console, including weird consoles you wouldn't expect to play on. Like the 3DS, for example. But I would recommend, if you were going to get a version, I would get it on 360 or PS3. I think the 360 version will become backwards compatible very soon. So
Peace Walker has.
Peace Walker has, so I think Peace Walker's a great game as well. But I think Snake Eater is a good choice. So, Pete, your number 2 game.
My number 2 is Canis Canem Edits. Which of course
is known as Bully to our American friends.
Known as Bully, yes, very much so. But of course, I had it on PS2, and that's the original title of it.
That's actually the European. That's just the European.
Oh, okay. It was just again. It's what I always thought it was. Done by Rockstar Games. Essentially, it's I mean, the close comparison is GTA because it's got a lot of mechanics that are similar to GTA, but it's very, very different in the way it's kind of told. It's, of course, the story is you play as a young little hooligan who's been sent to a private school to try and teach you some manners, as your parents, though, can't be asked to parent you themselves. And it's quite a nice story because, again, you can play it as either a bit of an asshole or as kind of a little kid who's just a bit misunderstood. As you try and struggle to make friends, go to class on time, and I guess get a girlfriend. That's essentially do everything you would do as maybe a little kind of secondary school kid would do, really. But like any GTA game, it's got some kind of sinister, like interesting side quests, and the overall story kind of takes a few little like twists and turns. Your best friend in the game ends up not being a very good friend, put it as that. There's also an area where you can branch out into like the town. And so after lessons, you can kind of go into town and spend money and get skateboarding and ride bikes. It's got loads of little mini games as well in the form of the lessons themselves. So it's not just I'm going to go to do art. It's like if it's art, it's a mini game. If it's science, it's a mini game. And I really like the kind of mix up of game mechanics from conventional third-person adventure game mechanics like GTA to almost WarioWare-esque mini games thrown in there, which are actually quite well done. And you can even get detention, which I thought was quite amusing.
Yes, it was a very popular game. Actually, it's a weird one because that's been released on about a billion consoles as well, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
Can you get it on PS4, Chris? I think you can, can't you?
Yeah, they released the PS2 version.
It obviously got an enhanced version on 360 and PS3, or just 360?
Yeah,
both.
It's a weird game. A lot of people point to that game as a popular game.
Yeah.
I never really played it because I didn't know what it was when I saw it. Like when it came out, I was just like, "Can this kid edit? What the fuck is this?" And obviously now as an adult, I'm like, "Oh, I would love that game."
It's good, mate.
We've talked on here before. We all kind of have some GTA-ness in our lists, so it's a cool game, and I would recommend playing that now because I think that holds up. Like L.A. Noire, it's very unique for a Rockstar game, so I think it probably holds up pretty well in a sort of interesting sense.
Yes, and this does the same thing really. I would definitely recommend playing it if you do like that sort of Rockstar's unique take on storytelling.
Indeed. And I suppose to end the PS2, we end it with me. And my favourite PS2 game is a game I still own on PS2. So you can probably figure out what that is.
Is it a platformer?
It's Final Fantasy X. So, what's that disappointing voice for? It's a great game. Exactly. So Final Fantasy X is the first PS2 Final Fantasy. At the time, and this is, it's hard for people to understand. At the time, Final Fantasy was the biggest franchise, right? Final Fantasy was bigger than GTA. Before the PS2.
Yeah.
I have GTA 2 on the PS1, and very few people I know have played it. Like beyond people my age, obviously.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy was massive. Final Fantasy X was the first one in HD. The first one in really updated graphics. That wasn't all pre-rendered. It had voice acting. I know some of the voice acting isn't very good, but most of it's pretty good. Like Tidus kind of sucks, but you had the guy that plays Bender doing Whacker. Marcus Phoenix and all that.
True.
Had a really interesting story that was really out there when you actually get to the ending. I'm not going to talk about it because I wouldn't be able to explain it even if I tried. You had Blitzball, which was cool. And I just think the battle system is the last great Final Fantasy battle system. For me, turn-based is where I'm at. I'm very open about that. Turn-based is my favourite type of RPG battle system. It's just how I grew up. I like the kind of like laid-back nature of it and sort of chess. It's not as much about reacting; it's more of planning, and I've always preferred that. And Final Fantasy X did that really well. The Aeons were great. Had some great side missions. The Dark Aeons were fantastic. And I think overall it was a really fun game. Is it as good as games that came before it? No, it's not. But it's better than stuff that came after. 10-2 wasn't actually that bad. If you go back now, at the time it was very strange because you were all girls and it was kind of weird and it was like a dance song when it opens. And what? But 10 is still a game, and it is on every console ever made. So you can play it on Vita, PS2, PS3, PS4. It's worth playing.
Yeah.
If you have any interest in turn-based games, Final Fantasy X is the one I would recommend from the Final Fantasy games because it holds up the best graphically. There's better games, but it holds up graphically. And for me, it's still my favourite PS2 game. It was the PS2 game that I bought PS2 for, and it's the PS2 game I still have. So that's everything you need to know, really. So that's the PS2. And we're nearing the end. We're almost at 2 hours.
Jesus.
We are nearing the end of this very long special podcast. It's going to be a nightmare for me to edit, so thanks, guys.
No problem, Dave.
Thanks, Chris. Why did we include PSVR? So the PS1. So, I mean, I had a PS1 when I was young. It wasn't my first console because I was very lucky enough to have a Master System and a Super Nintendo beforehand. I had a Jaguar for fleeting moments. A shag. I know, Chris, you had a PS1, right? And then we'll talk. I'm sure the games that I could almost predict some of the games that you've got. So I'm sure you'll talk memories when you get to them. And Pete, you didn't really have. You had N64 was kind of.
Yeah, I was an N64 child. Again, loved me some Nintendo when I was younger. But I played quite a bit of PS1 around my mates' houses. I had a PS3 and a PS2 when I was older, so I played PS1 games. But I wouldn't say I was ever like a PS1 fanatic.
Yeah, the PS1 sold over 100 million units, more than the Wii. So it's a very popular console, you know. So especially in Europe, it was kind of the first console to break Sega. Sega was the big console over here at the time, and the Saturn was so bad and so botched that Sony really stepped in. Nintendo has never been that popular in the UK. I hate to break this sort of like myth that there is, but it's never really been that popular over here.
No, Nintendo's never in the whole of Europe.
It's never been big. No, so it was Sega, and then it was Sony, and now it very much is Sony and Xbox. So the PS1 was a great console, and there's a lot of games. I had over 7,000 games, guys. So we'll probably have, and I know that me and Chris will have at least one the same here, probably. And I don't know about Pete because he's such a wild card. So Pete, you're number 3.
My number 3, PlayStation 1. Ooh, okay. Which would be Crash Team Racing.
It's an incredible game.
Incredible
game. Not on my list, but it should be.
Yes, again, I played a lot of multiplayer around mates' houses, and I was a big fan of the Mario Kart franchise, so playing this is a bit of a no-brainer. I liked Crash Bandicoot as a whole. I thought it was a really interesting character, and of course they're great games on their own right, but it was the Crash Team Racing that I really got into. And yeah, go around a mate's house, play a bit of Crash Team Racing, get really frustrated at them when they'd fire 3 rockets in your ass like anyone would. Yeah, if you like playing Mario Kart, play Crash Team Racing. It's not much more I can really say to it. It's just a really nice, probably the best, not my clone maybe you could say, but the best version, best kart racer.
It's probably more of a clone of Diddy Kong Racing, was it?
Yeah, good point.
Diddy,
yeah.
And I personally think it's the best non-Mario Kart racing game.
Yes, I'd agree.
Great choice, Pete.
Thank
That's
you.
actually not on my list, which is weird. We'll do my number 3 first because
Okay.
it's kind of similar. My number 3 is Circuit Breakers.
I haven't heard of that one.
No one's heard of that. If my brother's watching, he'll know because we played it as kids. But Circuit Breakers was essentially like a sort of Micro Machines ripoff.
Yeah.
But it was 3D models. It was sort of an isometric top-down racer. And it was really fun. You could play it 4-player. It had a lot of different vehicles. Before the time of Mario Kart 8, you could be a boat, you could be I think you could be a plane, and you could definitely be a car. And it just had a lot of content, had a lot of cool missions. It was just a, you know, if you look it up, guys, like at some point, it's got a very 90s soundtrack. You know what I mean? It's a cool little game. It's not a blockbuster game, but one of the things I like about the PS1, is there were so many games like this. There's so many games we could talk about that people didn't play. I can't remember the name, but there was a game where it was a ship and you used to blow stuff up, and it was a really popular game around the time.
Overboard,
there you go. It was really popular, like Tumba and stuff like that as well. And Circuit Breakers is just one of those games from my childhood that I played a lot, and I still love it. I remember I still have it physically. It has a sticker on the front for the DualShock. It was one of the early DualShock games, and it was just fun. It's just one of those games I could play it now. It would still be fun. It's just a little isometric racing game that has power-ups, you know.
Yeah.
So kind of similar to Crash Team Racing, but much more niche. And I wanted to talk about it because it's the only opportunity I'm ever going to get to talk about Circuit Breakers on a podcast. So. Circuit Breakers on PS1. Chris, what is your number 3?
Right. Before we start this podcast, I didn't have any of my games in order, and this is the hardest game, the hardest 3 games to put.
We're at 2 hours, Chris, so I hope that you figure it out.
I'm going to go for Metal Gear Solid as my number 3.
So that's the 3rd Metal Gear game in the order so far. Didn't like Metal Gear Solid 2, so now we know. Or Peace Walker.
Well, no, because I didn't want to have Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 on on both on the
PS2.
PS2.
Why is Metal Gear Solid your 3rd favourite PS1 game?
Because, like I was saying at the start, the PS1 was where I started playing a lot of franchises. Obviously, Metal Gear started on the MSX and the NES, but obviously the Solid series, which is more known.
It's the solid. It's the series that everyone knows. Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's where it started in. That's basically why I've got on my list. This is where it started. I played it. It was the first sort of like proper game I can say I played. Like I played a lot of like 3D platformers and stuff, and this is completely different to anything like that. And at the time, as like a 9-year-old, you go and play something like a Metal Gear Solid game. It was like completely different.
It's the most cinematic game.
Yeah.
At the time, there was nothing as cinematic as Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah.
Even had the director's name, which was like a weird thing for me.
It's very fresh,
yeah,
very
like
different.
On the front, and like how it did things like during the game, like you had to look at the back of the box. Or in my case, I had to go open my rental copy to see like something like printed the back of the box off to see the see the code for the codex. So you can codec to like call Marrow, if I remember correctly. I haven't played it for years.
Yeah, it is Marrow. It's for like a boss fight, right, or something like that.
Yeah, and obviously, like, you had to change your controllers over to fight your Psycho Mantis. And I just, like, did all these cool things. And, like I said, as a 9-year-old, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, that's, like, when it came to the PS2, it's like, oh, Metal Gear Solid 2, I want that. And that's basically set forth, like, my love of that series. And Kojima as well.
So, yeah, Metal Gear Solid's a solid choice. Pete, you're number 2.
Well, number 2. Actually, this might surprise you, Dave. It's actually Tekken 3.
It's a great game. That's an amazing game.
I'm not a massive fan normally of fighting games, but like Tekken 3 was one that I grew up with and really, really enjoyed. Again, played it around my mate's house a lot of the time. I was always a big fan of fighting games that are slightly more out there and with interesting designs. So I like the fact that Tekken had a lot of very monstrous sort of designs in the form of Ogre, Troger, and Gon, for example. I actually prefer the Tekken franchise over Street Fighter as well as a whole because of that. I just prefer it, but like I had a great time with Tekken 3. Like, just if you've played Tekken 3, you know that Gon was not actually a legitimate Tekken character. I believe he was from his own game.
Yeah, it's from an anime, I think, or manga.
Yeah, something like that. But of course, you had the great fireball, the fart in the face. Just the attacks were a bit interesting.
You saying that Gon was your main in Tekken 3?
Yes.
Oh, you suck.
I always like to pick really odd characters.
Yeah, you do like the cheap characters, as Damon.
Cheap characters? What are you on about?
Tekken 3 was great. I mean, Tekken 2 was a very revolutionary PS1 game.
Yes.
But Tekken 3 just did it all better. There was a really interesting beat 'em up mode, right? I remember. From that
game.
There
was.
And that's how you unlock like Dr. B was through that mode.
There was some really good characters in that game as well. I used to play like Martial Law and Jin and stuff, and it was cool. Tekken 3 is one of the quintessential PS1 games in the UK. I think the game still holds up pretty well now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, you can still play it and have a good time.
So, Chris, what's your number 2 PS1 game?
What about your number 2, Dave?
I'll do it afterwards. The order, I'm a Maverick, Chris.
The Maverick.
Okay. My number 2 is Final Fantasy 9, which to me personally is the best mainline Final Fantasy.
It is my number 1.
You saying about 10 holding up, I believe 9 holds up just as well, considering it's from the PS1. I would argue it looks like an early PS2 game. Ooh. It's now on PS4 through like the Steam version, so it looks slightly better. It's got achievements, it's got trophies, and obviously it's got the skip things and stuff like that. It's just fantastic, and it's not the first Final Fantasy game I played. I played 7 when it came out. Didn't have a clue what I was doing as a 7-year-old. Got to like the Scorpion. I have no idea. So maybe that's why I think 9 is so good, because it's the first one I played properly and finished and that. But it's just such a good game, and the characters, Sedan, Dagger, and Steimer, and that, really good.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy 9 is my favourite PS1 game, so I kind of knew that would be in there somewhere for you, so that's why I kind of didn't mind about the order. Final Fantasy 9, I don't think it does hold up quite as well as 10, just graphically, but it holds up the best of the PS1 games. I think for me, I talked about this on Twitter yesterday. I actually think it goes 9, 8, 7 for me on PS1. I think 7, it's 9 and 8 learn a lot from 7, and so going back to 7, it's kind of janky. The art is terrible in 7 now. It's really hard to go back to 7, even on the Steam version on PS4. But yeah, Final Fantasy 9 is a complete homage to the series. 7 and 8 were the first games that we got over here, and they were all modern, futuristic games with futuristic characters and weapons, and 9 just goes back to the job system.
Well, it goes more back to fantasy.
And the fantasy style of the original games, and it was much more the characters were much more unique because they had jobs. You know what I mean? Like so, like Zidane played a certain way that was different to Princess Garnet, whereas you could make Tifa and Cloud the same character if you wanted through material. You know what I mean? Like that's how that worked. So, and I love 9. Really good story, great art style, and the cinematics hold up. The cinematics are what really hold up, to be honest with you. And the PS4 version looks really good as well. Great characters, great story. I mean, if you're going to play a PS1 Final Fantasy, I recommend 9. And I think of the PS1 games, it holds up the best. Musically, unreal. The soundtrack's unreal in that game. And it has some very memorable moments. It's probably the easiest Final Fantasy on PS1.
Yeah.
I would say. So that was my number 1. So we will do my number 2 now.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Cool.
Yeah.
So to finish me off, my number 2 is Crash Bandicoot Warped.
Nice. That was close to being one of mine.
Yeah.
As we will know. Just a damn phenomenal game. And guys, I like colourful platformers. It was just, I liked Crash 1. It was hard, but I liked it. I loved Crash 2. And I know a lot of people say Crash 2 is the better game. I think in the Insane trilogy it is. But I think Crash 3 adds enough, especially back in the day. Adding the different types of levels, adding Coco as a playable character, adding more secret levels, adding lots of mechanics, adding the time trial mode. It looked great, ran flawlessly, was just fun. The level design was fun, the collecting was fun. It wasn't arduous, really. Boss fights were pretty good as well. And it was just, for me, it's the quintessential PS1 game. It's a game that still holds up as well, still looks good. The PS1 version still looks good. I know there's a remake. Yeah. But I played the PS1 version on my Vita fairly regularly, and it still looks pretty good.
Like I said, I got it on my Vita, and it just plays just as well. And I actually think I prefer playing the original PS1 game than the actual remake.
I loved Insane Trilogy, so I won't say that. But I think Warped and 2 are still fun games. If you just want to play them, much like Crash Team Racing, they still play and look pretty good. So yeah, Crash Warped is my second favourite behind Final Fantasy 9.
Nice.
So what's left? Pete's first?
Yeah, it's cool. So my first actually is something I actually played recently, which was Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories.
Wow. Wasn't expecting that today.
Yeah, I know, right? But I'm a huge Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan. I love me some card games, and most of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, because I've played a few of them, follow the TGC, so it's it follows more how the actual game plays in real life. Forbidden Memory says, fuck that, I'm going to follow the TV show, and has TV show shenanigan laws. So, for one thing, if you know the game, fusion monsters normally require polymerization to basically get created.
Not a clue what you're on about.
Exactly. No. In this, they don't. That's one of the reasons. It's hard as nails. It follows, I think it's one of the TV storylines, and it's just funny for me because, like I said, I'm a massive Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan. And it was okay, I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh, but not Yu-Gi-Oh. I'm playing Yu-Gi-Oh like I was actually in the TV show, and nothing. It's all fucking TV show lore, TV show antics. Cards don't play how they should play. Artwork's different. I just really liked it. I thought it was just really kind of entertaining.
Nice. PS1 has these type of games.
Yeah.
PS1 has these type of games. You just.
All I know is there's quite a rare one on the GameCube. That's it, and it is got the TV show box art because it's got Yugi and Kaiba, I think, on the front.
A lot of them have the box art. It's the way they play often follows the TGC, whereas this literally plays like they would in the anime itself. Where things don't do what they're meant to do.
And I thought Chris was going to be the biggest nerd on this podcast today. So.
Well, I'm glad to prove you wrong, Chris.
Yeah, it's true. So, to finish us off, Chris Pengelly, finally end of this podcast. It's now 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Your favourite PS1 game?
My favourite PS1 game is Resident Evil 2.
Nice, good one to end on.
I didn't even think that I forgot Resident Evil was a thing. But
well, you're not really into that kind of thing, are you?
Did. I genuinely did. So, why is Resident Evil 2 your favourite? Even though it's better on Dreamcast.
There is a Dreamcast version which is better, and the GameCube version as well, and then the weird N64 version. It was just the first one really has aged apart from the remake. I don't feel Resident Evil 2 has aged as much as people think, but I am really excited about that remake coming in January. But it's really different. It had 2 discs, and one story is Claire, one of them is Leon. If you played Leon first and then Claire's, it altered, and vice versa. And my uncle gave me my PS1, and I remember playing Resident Evil 2 all the time with him, and going through like trying to get all the different ranks, so you can unlock like the Arnie costume for Leon and different one for like Claire, so she looked like Jill or something, like if I can remember correctly. It's fantastic, and it's like a weird thing is like if you said, oh, you could have like the 100% the game or a speed run of game one, you think I would most probably be this or Resident Evil 3. You know, just fantastic survival horror games, and one that, and it's something that got me into that genre was like Resident Evil 2, and then obviously later like Silent Hills and all that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a very good cinematic game as well at the time, and
Yeah.
I remember people being very excited. I mean, again, I didn't play zombie games, so you know, like I said, I was playing Crash Bandicoot and having a great time.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Like you're saying about Tekken, I think it is sort of like one of the quintessential.
It is one of the quintessential. That Final Fantasy 7, Metal Gear Solid, Tekken, you know, those kind of
Gran
games.
Turismo 2 and stuff like that.
Gran Turismo. They're the PS1 games everyone remembers. Ape Escape, Parappa the Rapper.
Oh,
But
yeah,
I
Parappa the
mean,
Rapper.
I suppose that's a good way to end our PlayStation special, the 2-hour special. If you've stuck through this, like, fair play to you.
Yeah,
Fair play to like the 2 people that we know that will watch this. So that's it. I mean, next time we meet will probably be a retrocast. I'm not going to say it because we always change our schedule. But the next Pod of War episode, pure Pod of War, will be a general game chat again. We'll talk about what we've been playing. There'll be a topic of the show, and that will be the format. So we might even bring back verses. I don't know yet. We haven't had that chat yet. So thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks to Chris Pengelly for joining us.
Oh, like always.
And thank to Peter James Morris for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. It was good fun.
It's my pleasure, and I have been your host, UF Gizmo. If you want to follow us at all our usual places, at Pod of Wars, at Massive Das, at Peter J. Morris, and at UF Gizmo. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.